2010 was a dark year for WWE. The PG era was in full force, and John Cena was immovable at the top of the company, which was becoming increasingly more stale. But on the 7th of June 2010, WWE Raw put on an enormously terrible episode based around the viewer's choice gimmick. But oh my god, did it end with one of the more exciting angles in the company's history. The debut of the Nexus, which shone bright for 2 months.
I can't wait to see how long this story can last.
Welcome to this show. I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luke Owen, DAD. Well, this is episode 1 in our trek through the rise and fall of the Nexus.
Our rise and very quick fall of the Nexus. And actually, the fall of the Nexus is going to come in the next episode. And then there are a few more episodes to come.
Is that right? Because this is 8 episodes
the next
overall.
Public episodes.
Okay, because in my head, it's pretty good. Like, we've got a great 2-month thing to SummerSlam. They lose at SummerSlam, and then it's all the nonsense like John Cena has to join them. John Cena gets fired, blah, 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 blah.
So what we have got is we're starting with this episode here. Then over on patreon.com/WrestleTalk, you can go watch our review of Money in the Bank 2010, which the Nexus are not on, but they feature in the main event of. I'm afraid to say we're not going to be reviewing Fatal 4-Way.
Oh, what? But that's what this whole show is selling.
We will watch the main event, but we don't need to watch the whole show. But we will watch...
But it's got 2 Fatal 4-Ways on.
But we will watch all of Money in the Bank 2010. And then the next public episode is going to be SummerSlam 2010. When all of the wheels fall off. And then after that, it is Night of Champions 2010, which is when Wade Barrett cashes in his WWE Championship match, which I think is against 5 other people. Smart move, Wade. And then the rest of the arc will be John Cena joins the Nexus, John Cena gets fired. And by the time we actually end, the one episode we're not going to do is Royal Rumble 2011, which is kind of like really the last bit of this story, because that's when you have the new Nexus face off against the Core, who are already a thing by the time we get to Royal Rumble 2011. And then that was supposed to build to a match between the 2 factions at WrestleMania, and instead we got the Core versus a bunch of good guys, which they lose, and the new Nexus are not on the show because they're banned from ringside in Punk's match against Randy Orton, in a show we have actually reviewed.
Yeah, that dovetails quite nicely into our last series, which was The Rock versus John Cena. So you can watch all those bits there.
Because what they realised is actually pushing new stars isn't going to work. Just bring back The Rock.
Well, to be fair, big buy rate.
It did work.
So you're telling me within 6 to 7 months, the brightest spot... Because the reason the Nexus captures everyone's imagination, I think, and ours at the time, this angle that we're going to talk about at the end of this show, this encapsulates the 5 years of WWE around this time, which is the worst television you've ever seen.
It's so bad. This episode is atrocious.
It barely functions as watchable programming. I don't know how I sat through it. Now we're looking back at it through 2025 Paul Levesque long-term booking eyes. But, I mean, half the show's replays of what happened in the previous segment.
Well, that is because they're not used to doing 3-hour shows at this point. So they don't, this isn't a special episode being 3 hours. This is not the norm at this point. So it really does feel like they don't know how to fill 3 hours. So the way they figure is just, well, we'll just keep replaying all the stuff that happened earlier in the show. I mean, you have a go at AEW for not doing enough replays. And now here you are having a go at doing replays. Why? You know the problem as wrestling fans.
The universe is founded on balance. And I'm not saying go this far, but I'm saying maybe do some replays, AEW, of your biggest moments from last week. But yeah, this episode is kind of a microcosm of the time because it is 95% unwatchable stuff that actively makes you dumber, and then 5%, usually right at the very end, is the greatest thing you've ever seen. And it's just like this enormously abusive relationship we found ourselves in because we got in as kids and we keep watching it because we know the highs are better than any highs from any other form of entertainment.
Can I also tell you why I think this angle hits so hard? And maybe and you've not looked at it from this angle just yet. But we are also a few months removed from the death of TNA and the Hogan era, which started so bright on January 4th, 2010, and then died so quickly just a handful of months later at the end of the Monday Night War, the new Monday Night War. So I think as wrestling fans, we had been crushed by professional wrestling because we were so excited about TNA's finally going to be this competitor to WWE, finally an alternative that really can compete against it, and it dies so quickly, and it retreats back to Thursday nights where they're like, well, the fans actually want us to go back to Thursday nights, and then we're like, oh, so we're just back to the status quo again, and then this happens. You're like, maybe something is going to be good. Because NXT was not a good show.
Oh, yeah. Well, it wasn't Black and Gold NXT. It was a game show. Season 1 had just finished. It had The Miz teaching Daniel Bryan how to be a professional wrestler.
Which was a troll on the audience. Like, that is WWE knowing that Bryan Danielson is the best wrestler on the planet. So they paired him with The Miz. And The Miz is going to keep telling him how he's a boring, bland, uninteresting character. And heel Michael Cole will be telling you how he is boring and only Twitter likes him, to rile up Twitter and get us angry at the product. So we cheer Daniel Bryan. If they didn't do that, we wouldn't have Yeselmania. You see, this is the problem with you, Mark.
I feel like you're really taking on this devil's advocate role. And I know you don't believe the things you're saying, but my God, am I hating you for saying it? I think this is, you are right. The TNA part is a very important element of this story because, and maybe if we reviewed this a couple of years ago, we'd have a different idea. Like, we just needed an alternative to WWE. Now that WWE in 2025 and for the last few years has been good.
It's its own alternative.
There's been this school of thought that's like, oh, did we ever want an alternative? Or did we want WWE just to be good?
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Like, AEW right now, I think, is being very good as well. But WWE is also really good.
Yeah.
It's not like... you do need alternative styles. Like the TNA pre-Hogan were putting on something different. They had 6-sided rings. They had the X Division. Without that period of TNA and Ring of Honor to an extent, the wrestling art form would not move forward, and we'd still be stuck with divas matches and very slow, lumbering in-ring styles.
Rest holds.
So I think 2010 is the story of enormous promise. And we said this at the start of the 2014 breakup of the Shield series we did, which was the start of 2014. Yeah, you've got Cena. Yeah, you've got Orton. Yeah, you've got these guys that we don't really care about on top. But you've got the Shield. You've got CM Punk. You've got Daniel Bryan. You've got the Wyatt family. It's this like new dawn of talent.
Yeah.
And in 4 months' time, Bryan was injured, Punk had left, the Shield had broken up, and the Wyatt family were beaten by John Cena.
Yeah.
It's like this new dawn is ruined. And what we had coming into 2010 was TNA. Like, we were.
I was so there for it, man. I simulcast those episodes of Raw and Impact. I had them both on my laptop screen in separate windows, so I could watch both of them and go between the one and the other, mute one and go to the other. So I'm like, I'm going to watch the Shawn and Brett segment. Then I'm going to watch the TNA escape match over here.
I remember walking home on New Year's Eve, which was then New Year's Day, through Dartford with a couple of my mates, and all I would talk about was January 4th.
It's going to be big.
It was January 4th, right, wasn't it?
Yeah, January
That's
4th.
The Wrestle Kingdom date as well.
Yeah.
Didn't think of that. But Japanese wrestling hadn't been invented yet. That happened when they got English commentary
when Jim Ross
in
joined
2015. That I was telling them, like a broken record, honestly, everyone's going to be watching TNA.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be the next big thing. The Monday Night Wars are coming back.
It's going to be massive. I was so into, I was a big Wrestling Observer listener at this point as well. And every Tuesday morning getting up and not only listening to the reviews of both shows, then on Wednesday, that was when the exciting day came out, because that was when they do the ratings episodes. And there'd just be a little mini 10, 15 minute episode with Brian and Dave breaking down the ratings. And also on that Wednesday, you got your Brian and Vinny review as well. It was a glorious time because here's the thing. It's not just the Impact was bad. Raw was also bad. It's just that Raw trounced them in the ratings because it's WWE and TNA just didn't seem to capture people's imagination with the Nasty Boys in 2010, apparently.
Yeah.
But it's just like these shows were just so horrendously bad. But we as wrestling fans all knew that they were bad. So we kind of all got together to kind of celebrate how bad they were.
Oh,
but not celebrate.
That wasn't me.
I suppose it's not celebrate, is it? But we kind of enjoyed a little bit of how bad they were.
No. I was, at this time, I know we'll get into the Nexus eventually, but, it's me and Luke.
It's context.
We've got to talk about TNA for a half-hour opening. I was hook, line, and sinker. I guess you would call me a stan in the modern parlance. I love TNA so hard, and I can't remember when it happened, but I never rage quit TNA.
No,
I just missed an episode here and there.
Yeah,
and before I knew it, I'm not really watching it anymore.
I've not gone back to watch the episodes that I missed.
Yeah, you miss a pay-per-view, and you're like, well, I'll read the results, and then you're just listening to podcasts recapping what's happened. But yeah, I was like, that episode was the best episode I've ever seen of the live Impact. Yeah. And I know it wasn't. Even at the time, I knew it wasn't.
But it was exciting.
It was exciting. Stuff happened. Uh-huh. Jeff Hardy's there.
Stuff has happened.
Homicide. Is it Homicide? He can't get out of that cage.
The Nasty Boys are here.
Ric Flair's here.
The band are getting back together. We're getting the NWO again.
Yeah.
I'm sure Kevin Nash is thrilled about all this. He definitely looks like he wants to be there.
But I just buried the bits that knew this was bad deep down and covered that with anger at people who agreed with that deep down. No, this is great. What are you doing? Just we've got to support them though, because they're the only alternative. Doesn't matter how good or bad it is. I think it's good though.
You're Triple H's ideal fan. You're the fan that he really wants to watch WWE at the moment, not the one who looks at it and goes, maybe this isn't good.
Yeah.
Maybe this bit is good. He doesn't want those people. He wants you people over there. They're just like, no, it's good. And I'm enjoying watching it as a fan. Not like you mark.
I think it's important for everyone to realize few people are formed with objective opinions. And even these two wise men you're watching right now, we, at one point in our lives, were the dirtiest marks. We just loved every bad storyline, and not in a that's bad, like, oh yeah, this is really good TV. They're gonna get the young stars over this way.
We've read my forum posts from a few years prior to this, of where I was just dyed in the wool TNA. And yet when I was talking about celebrating how bad this was, I think it's kind of like 2019 WWE when we would do the WrestleTalk podcast. And I look back on those now as group therapy sessions of where we all got together to be like, why are we still watching this? And you would say over and over again, if this was not my job, I would have stopped watching. And I think that's kind of where we just even in 2010, that's where we were as wrestling fans, particularly what is now known as the IWC, and I suppose probably called then as well, is we were just like, why do we still watch this show? I guess because I've always watched it, so I'll continue to watch it. This is a bad show, but I'm going to tune in every single Monday to watch this bad episode of Monday Night Raw, and then I will talk about how bad it was the following day.
Yeah, they need to do this, or fantasy book various scenarios.
But I think every single year, from 2010 onwards, because there's a period, 2006 to 2009, there's nothing to hold on to, I think, in WWE. People might say, Punk and Ray was really good. It's like, yeah, that's, a good few months of TV you got there. Or Punk and Jeff and this on CM Punk as a whole, I guess. But every year, I'd say from 2010 onwards, there was always that moment to be like, this is it. This is the nexus point of a new era of WWE. And then that doesn't work out. The following year, no, this is the new one. And then the following, this is the new one. And we kept grabbing hold of them. And it wouldn't be until Triple H took over the reins that we found we just got all of these now.
Well, you had AEW. AEW was the one. So 2010 for me is a story of the one thing I thought that would change the wrestling industry, TNA, into a more exciting product that would break out into the mainstream. that had died.
Yeah.
And like 4 months in, you could tell this wasn't going the way we all thought it would, with the rocket fuel Dixie Carter once described Hulk Hogan as.
The new boom for professional wrestling.
This wasn't the Monday Night Wars repeated, which I can't believe looking back I ever thought it would be.
We did, though!
We
really did think it was going to be the new Monday Night War.
The only way wrestling can get better is if 2 shows go live head-to-head, specifically on Monday night.
That's the only way it will work. I watched a whole DVD documentary about it. It's the most exciting period of wrestling history.
You don't want to go live head-to-head with a pre-recorded SmackDown first? No, we go right for their balls.
It worked in 1996. I'm sure it'll work again in 2010.
Yes, Dixie Carter's infinite money pot, just like Ted Turner. Surely these are the same.
Oh, I should say with Dixie Carter's infinite
Well, I didn't
money.
mean it that way. Meant her allowance from her dad's Panda Energy Company. So yes, that had fallen apart, and I'm not watching TNA as much. I'm still watching Raw every week because it's what you always do. Even though I did not like WWE, I'd still watch it to hate it.
Mm-hmm.
And Punk and all these various things were there. Like, I like Dolph Ziggler. Like, you have your favorites, but they're just nowhere near the top of the company because it is just John Cena. It is just Randy Orton. Even when they get behind a new guy, it's Sheamus or Jack Swagger. And I know we all love Jack Swagger now. But, those weren't the guys we wanted. It's like WWE said, oh, you want new guys, do you? Here's 2 guys. Here's Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, and Jack Swagger. Now, 2 of those turned out to be really, really good.
Yeah.
They weren't at that time. Poor old Jack Swagger. They weren't at that time.
No.
So you had all this, but then the Nexus happened, and all of a sudden you've got 8 people out of nowhere debuted. It's like, this feels fresh. This is exciting. And 2 months go by. They look like they're going to go to the top of the company. A whole new, just sort of, at least one top main eventer. Skip Sheffield and Justin Gabriel were probably the other 2 big guys who they're going to be like the top of the Intercontinental title scene. And in 2-3 years' time, they'll be in the world title picture. The tag division could get Heath Slater and Darren Young, maybe. Who knows where Michael Tarver goes? Like Daniel Bryan, also in the IC title picture. But he'll never get to the main events. Not in Vince's WWE.
World, yeah.
But you could really see, this is the future. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And then I'm not kidding. When we get to the SummerSlam episode, that nearly killed me. I've said it so many times that it's like that is my moment where I'm in Crime Alley and my parents are shot. That is the darkest moment.
And your parents are Wade Barrett and Skip Sheffield.
They are. Ryback is my mum.
Mum back.
I was trying to feed me more.
Feed me mum.
Feed me mum.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen. And I was out. If it wasn't for Ring of Honor, and then the pipe bomb the next year, I won't be here.
I actually am in complete agreement with you, and it's looking back at this episode, and I'm sure we'll track this as we go throughout this series. But thinking about this now, this is actually a bit of a death knell for me as well as a wrestling fan, because I was so excited in January, and just like 2 months in, it's dead and gone because Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff. I think this is quite an extreme way to put it, but I genuinely do think ruined something that I loved.
Yeah.
They came in and they took everything that I loved about TNA and threw it in the bin and did what they thought TNA should have been, which I didn't like. They made it a show I was not enjoying anymore, and it was a show that I absolutely loved just 6 months earlier. Just 3 months earlier, I was in love with this show, and they completely took that away. So, and I didn't like WWE, but this Nexus thing happened, and we'll get to it. I do buy some of the pay-per-views that come off the back of this because I want to see what happens next with the Nexus.
Fatal 4-Way?
Not that one. I'm pretty sure I bought SummerSlam, And I bought the one where Wade Barrett is facing Randy Orton with Cena as the referee. That I definitely bought that on pay-per-view. But come November, come December, I'm done with that as well. So TNA is no longer a product I enjoy, and WWE, which I have not been enjoying, but had this thing that I was quite interested in, have killed off all of my interest in that as well. So now I don't like anything. And for you, it's Ring of Honor. I didn't really have a lot of access to Ring of Honor. It's Wrestling Observer Radio. That is what keeps me as a wrestling fan up until the pipe bomb, because I'm just listening to Brian and Dave reviewing the shows. I'm listening to Brian and Vinny review the shows. And even when we get to the pipe bomb, it's only a couple of months after that they kind of kill off that storyline as well, because that really only lasts for a month. And then we go into the quote unquote summer of punk, which doesn't really happen. And it's Wrestling Observer Radio that I'm listening to.
Mine's Solomonster, who I think is brilliant.
Yeah. Would you like a little bit of news?
Yes. So I was not a smart mark, I guess, this time. I was not following the backstage news. I didn't really even know that a backstage news industry was there. Like, I didn't know PW Insider or Wrestling Observer Radio.
Yeah.
I guess Solomonster would occasionally talk about something from the Observer and this guy Dave Meltzer, but I wasn't interested in those parts. I was like, yeah, but what about the fantasy booking?
Yeah.
What about the stories? What's going to happen next?
I remember the first time I discovered Dave Meltzer, which was like in the mid-2000s. I was at university, and I was part of the smartmarks.com. Shout out to the Smartmarks forum.
That's your Nexus.
That's when I became the fan that I am today. And there was a guy on there whose username was Hunter's Torn Quad, HTQ. And he would always talk about the Observer and the Wrestling Observer. I thought he was friends with Dave Meltzer because he would talk about Meltzer so much. And I actually found him to be quite an annoying presence on the board. He hated TNA. And because I loved TNA, he would just go into the TNA message boards to talk about how bad the show was and point out all the flaws, which I knew were there, but I didn't want people pointing them out. And I once said in a post, oh, it's just because he's friends with Meltzer that he thinks he knows a lot. And someone replied to that being like, no, he just reads the Observer. And then I'm like, okay. So then that's when
Father Christmas isn't real.
That's when I discovered the Wrestling Observer, and I started going through that. But anyway, here's some news from the world of wrestling at this point. So, for me, I've talked about my wrestling fans. I am living in a house with two guys who I'm not enjoying living with at this point because it felt like I've gone back to my university years of living in a dirty house with two people who can't be asked to clean things, and because I'm not the tidiest person in the world. But I do like things to. I
like someone else to tidy them.
I will clean, and I will do that, and I don't mind doing it. But I get frustrated when I'm the only one doing it. Like when I was in my uni house, I was the only one who would do the dishes.
Which means you stop doing the dishes, which just contributes more to the problem.
And you sort of I'm not going to do it because that way they'll step up and they'll do it, and they never do, and then that just means that you've then got 4 days worth of washing that you need to do rather than just. Oh, fine, I'll just do it every day then. And I was the same thing in this house I was living in, and it was an awful, awful time.
Is this the one where someone just sold your games console?
Yeah, they stole a few bits from me, sure did.
That's not cool, is it?
not particularly.
I'm going to go out there and say it. I don't think that's right, mate.
Neither do I. One of my housemates didn't cook, so he just ordered takeaway pizza every single day.
I bet it's not only the plates that needed cleaning.
And he also didn't like to leave his room a lot. So that would just mean that...
Well, it's the fapping.
It would mean he didn't like to have to take the pizza boxes downstairs to throw them out. So on top of his wardrobe, there were just stacks of pizza boxes because he would just finish it and just put the next one up onto the next stack up. And he just had just sort of rows of pizza boxes until, our landlords would say, oh, I'm coming around tomorrow to do an inspection. And then there would just be all of these pizza boxes outside in the recycling.
A fire hazard. Well, pizza's good because, you need one hand free for the fapping. It sounds like you lived with the stereotype character in the action movie. Yeah. And they go to the geek's house who helps them hack into something. But yeah, it's like always in a green glow, curtains drawn, pizza boxes everywhere.
Because do you know what else he was doing when he wasn't eating pizza?
Fapping.
Playing games online.
Yeah.
And he would just play Xbox Live all evening long. And that is all he did. I wonder if that is why I've got a bit of a thing against online gaming. I just associated with him. Anyway, so they're currently doing the Best of the Super Juniors over in New Japan.
Right.
Just thought I'd
what? No, this is 2010.
Yeah. Just thought I'd just read through some of the names.
That wasn't invented until 2015.
Check out some of these names that are in the Block A. Kota Ibushi, Prince Devitt, Davey Richards, Jushin Thunder Liger, Kushida, La Sombra, Gedo and Tiger Mask.
La Sombra is Andrade.
It's Andrade, yeah. Gedo and Tiger Mask 4. And in Block B, it's Taiji Ishimori, Taguchi.
I didn't know Ishimori dates back that far.
Yeah, neither did I. Akira, Kenny Omega, Kanemoto, Hayato Tamatonga, and Yoshihashi. There you go.
Loose explosion.
Some TNA news for you, because we are still in the first half an hour of this, so we can still talk about TNA. Ross Foreman, who was the public relations department, has been with the company almost from the start, was let go a few weeks ago, although it only became public this past week. It is said to be due to budget cutbacks. The thing that people were talking about that may have nailed him was something completely out of his control. Among the things that he did was put together the TNA trading cards with TriStar, since he's got a legit sports background, and he did all of the writing for the cards. Everything he wrote had to be approved before it went out. For the most recent set of card, the focus theme on all of the cards was TNA taking over Monday nights.
That's the problem when you're... these things need a long lead time. So there is an element of trying to predict the future, and maybe that was too optimistic.
Well, the day the cards came back to be shipped out was the day after Spike moved them back to Thursdays.
Oh, no!
And there was an office uproar, particularly from Dixie Carter, about the cards pushing Monday nights. A few were surprised, noting that Foreman is super tight with Kevin Nash dating back to the WCW days, and figured that Nash would be able to save him. Creative has been told to get Hogan on every television show, even if it's just for a moment. There has been the argument that he should be on less and used as a special attraction, so his dates and appearances would mean more.
Well, I can see if the ratings are going down and you've got Hulk Hogan there, that I guess there is an argument that, well, let's put him on as many shows just to get the ratings up. But yet that is at the expense of making him feel special.
But also, it's a weird thing to say as well, because if he's on the TV shows and it's not improving the ratings, I don't think the answer then is just put him on the TV show more, because that will improve the ratings. He's proven now to not be a ratings draw.
Hey, well, a couple of years ago, the WrestleTalk News viewership was going down, and I was like, I guess there needs to be more me. And I hosted loads more episodes, and it kept going down.
Ric Flair's contract was only a one-year deal of calling for 52 dates. Considering he's been on virtually every TV and every pay-per-view, they are running through the dates early and will have to ink a new deal if they want to keep him. One person noted that one of the reasons for keeping him was looking at Reed Flair, who may have actually been signed. Rick said he had, and in TNA the assumption was it was true, but talking to several who should know, none of them were able to confirm it, is that if Reed is signed and put on the road, or for that matter just used for big shows, it'll be easier for Flair to agree to add more dates and get a new deal without charging them a difficult price.
Reed, of course, is Charlotte Flair's brother, Ric Flair's son, who... committed suicide and passed away.
And for those of you in the comments who might be talking about how bad AEW's attendance has been over the last couple of years, TNA did a show in the Hogan era after being on Monday nights that drew 900 fans.
Oh!
And this is not like 3 years into the Hogan run. This is 4 months into the Hogan run. Yeah,
for, I guess in the glory days of AEW, they'll probably do 6,000 to 7,000 live. Right now, it's 2.5 to 3.5.
It's between 3 and 4, I think, for most shows. Yeah.
But then they are choosing to run some smaller venues, which I think is a great idea.
It was a response to the dropping attendance in 2024.
But 900. That's like, that's a Ring of Honor's probably drawing 200-300 people. So
that's it.
If you're trying to create a scale of where things are. Do you have any idea what WWE's drawing at this time?
Was like 10,000.
Right, okay.
For this episode of
Well, it's the viewership choice edition.
They're the GM tonight. WWE didn't do so well when it came to Extreme Rules, which was the previous pay-per-view, which based on first estimates did 178,000 buys worldwide and 103 in North America. This would be the third lowest WWE domestic pay-per-view number in the last 14 years, trailing only the 2008 Cyber Sunday and 2006's December to Dismember.
Yeah, two catastrophic shows.
Yeah. And it's funny as well because that Cyber Sunday was a viewer's choice thing. And one of the reasons why they thought it didn't work is because they gave the viewers the power and let's try it on TV instead.
Yeah, we'll get into the limits of pseudo control given to the audience.
Yeah. The number has been a major disappointment because it was a loaded show featuring major steps in top matches with the company's marquee stars. John Cena versus Batista in a last man standing match, Edge versus Chris Jericho in a cage match, Triple H versus Sheamus in a street fight, Jack Swagger versus Randy Orton for the world title, and CM Punk putting his hair against Rey Mysterio. All of that. And it's the third lowest domestic buy in company history.
Yeah, when you just read that out on paper, that does feel like a good card now.
Yeah.
But back then, even, John Cena, very divisive figure. Rey Mysterio, I did not like seeing Rey Mysterio on my TV.
Yeah.
For ages.
The other thing which is hilarious because there'll be people who do interviews around this time that'll say that this has no impact on wrestling. But there was a UFC show on the same weekend that did 150,000 domestic buys, like the day before. Yeah. And like Ric Flair's then being like, there's no crossover audience. But people are like, well, but here's literal data that shows that when UFC run a show, wrestling numbers go down. The Undertaker underwent surgery this past week on a damaged orbital bone. Before the surgery, we had heard he would not be able to return for 8 to 12 weeks, but haven't heard anything since. It would make sense to keep him out of action until SummerSlam. At that point, the plan is still Swagger versus Undertaker for the SmackDown title, but you can't expect those kind of plans to not change 10 times before then. They really have nothing else special leading to the show, so if he's ready before that date, it would make no sense to use him and take him away from the return at that show. As far as who is revealed to be the person who laid him out, they could either bring up a giant from developmental, Jackson Andrews has the look, but the last I saw it was far too green, I'm not sure if he's even around right now, or go with someone on the roster. Swagger would make sense since the plan was him and Undertaker at SummerSlam, but Punk would have been better since he carries more real heat. A lot of people expect it would be revealed to be Kane, and the way that Kane has been booked so strong at the SmackDown tapings and with Sheamus on Raw would indicate that he's being built up for something big. At one point, that was the primary plan, but with so many coming to that conclusion and then show accusing Kane of it on TV this coming week, that sounds like something they wouldn't throw out there unless it was early if it was the ultimate direction. Besides, I'm not sure what the purpose would be for another Undertaker versus Kane feud.
Yeah, those matches are never good.
No. Bruce Pritchard, one of my favorite things he's ever said is that great story, but unfortunately the bell has to ring. Vince McMahon has changed his mind regarding the Survivor Series name.
Oh, is this year?
It's this year.
Where he's like, no more Survivor Series. I'm sick of it.
At Raw in Miami, they announced in the building that the next show would be on the 21st of November, and it was advertised as the Survivor Series. Originally, they were supposed to come up with a new name for the show this month, when last year's show only did 136,000 buys in North America based on that first estimate, dropping from 191,000 the year before. McMahon blamed the drop on the idea that Survivor Series name is antiquated.
It's not my booking or the lack of new engaging stars. It's the name.
It's the name.
It's the name of the show. And here he is, building a show called Fatal 4-Way.
You need new and exciting ideas like Fatal 4-Way or Bragging Rights. We will be reviewing a Bragging Rights show.
Will we?
Yeah.
Oh,
we get to review a Bragging Rights show. It's the one where the N in Bragging Rights is replaced with the Nexus logo.
I like that, though.
However, after the drop at this year's WrestleMania, and with both coming the day after a UFC pay-per-view, there was a lot more discussion that maybe the name wasn't the problem. Actually, on Survivor Series, the problem was much of the bad build-up for the main event, a Cena versus Triple H versus Michael match, where they did all comedy interviews and was more into pushing Hornswoggle getting into DX, and Cena using a line about the three-way, I beat you, you beat me, we all beat each other, as well as the Bella Twins walked in and looked at them weird, and it wasn't the kind of dynamic that makes people want to see a match. The fact
Great opening of that match, though.
Yes.
It's the one where Michaels just super kicks Triple H right at the start, and Cena's like,
more classic Cena acting. The fact is, the UFC the next day did a disappointing number, and I believe it was a factor, but not at the level of Mania, where the UFC show did a big number the night before. But when it comes to both shows, internally, even though they never say it publicly, most do acknowledge UFC as a prime reason for the drop in both shows.
Well, the 2010 WrestleMania
26.
Yeah. That lower buy rate than normal is what prompted The Rock's guest spot in WrestleMania 27 in 2011.
Yeah, we cover that on our WrestleMania 27 review.
Yeah, as part of the Rock Cena series. Episode 1.
You know, it is indeed. The reason they are so strong on pushing new guys is the realization... Get this, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
The reason they are so strong on pushing new guys is the realization that so many of the headliners aren't going to be around forever.
Cena and Orton, 15 years later... are headlining the next pay-per-view as we record this.
While nearly every wrestler goes on longer than they say they will, both Mysterio, talking about 2 more years full-time wrestling.
Oh my God!
And Edge, saying he's got 2 more years left, along with The Undertaker, obviously on borrowed time, Triple H hitting 40, Big Show is 38. It's a miracle he's even going at this point. You can see why they're suddenly trying to get new guys over.
Big Show would main event WrestleMania in 2020, 10 years later.
Brian Alvarez would write, Edge did an interview saying he may have 2 more years left before retiring. If I had $5 for every wrestler who did an interview saying they were going to retire in 2 more years, I'd retire in 2 more years.
Well, technically, Edge did retire in 2 more years.
Just not through his own choice.
Yeah, he retired the next year.
Is that right? Oh, God, it's the next year, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2 years' time.
But then he came back.
He did, yeah. And he's still wrestling now. The creative team is really happy with Laycool because there were people mad about the idea that TNA had created the beautiful people and made their women's division look second-rate in comparison. Their feeling is Laycool is way hotter than the beautiful people, and it's really a copy, so they beat them at their own game.
Yep, that's what really got us into the Knockouts division. It's how hot they all are, not that the storylines are better, the characters are well developed. And the wrestling, particularly with Gail Kim and Awesome Kong, was awesome.
Well, they are talking about hotter as in like crowd reactions to them, because 2010 is not the beautiful people are not the hot act that they were only a couple of years previously. And Laycool were literally just a carbon copy. They saw what they did with the beautiful people, pressed Control-C, Control-V, and put it on Michelle McCool and Layla, and pretended that they hadn't. And well, they according to Meltzer here, the reaction to it is like, well, we just copied what they did, but now we're doing it better, so we beat them at their own game.
For the record, I always enjoyed Laycool. I thought they were a good act. Much better together than they were apart.
On SmackDown over the weekend, they taped a segment where Layla and McCool mentioned how they ran Mickie James out of WWE. The decision was made to pull the segment by Vince McMahon after it was taped because he didn't want Mickie James's name being mentioned on air.
Because she was in TNA at this point?
She's going to be going to TNA. I don't know if she is actually in TNA at this point, but she's certainly going. They've already fired her.
Yeah.
And then she will end up in TNA as Hardcore Country.
Yeah, Laycool did the infamous Piggy James angle where they made fun of her weight. Which, if you put that in a movie, the bullies making fun of a girl who is obviously not overweight and calling her fat... That's a good storyline, right? Because then she overcomes them and she shows that they're bullies and all this stuff, and she's confident in her own body. That's a normal story you see in films all the time. However, it doesn't feel like the characters are saying it in this era of WWE. It feels like the production company are literally calling Mickie James fat.
Yeah, if this was a movie, it would be like the director is going to Laycool and be like, she is fat though, isn't she? So you should say that she is fat.
We need to get her out of this film.
Because she's fat.
We just want the film to be full of bullies who are fit.
The problem is she's not losing weight. We think that if we keep telling her that she's fat, she'll get less fat.
Yeah.
So can you help us out with that? The plan right now is to push Evan Bourne seriously, and we'll see how long that goes. The mentality now is they recognize the best people coming into wrestling are smaller, and they have to establish that talented small people can headline, or they'll have a major depth issue in the future.
Yeah, and we see that unfold throughout this episode where John Cena... And Evan Bourne goes up to him and says, "Thank you so much for the opportunity, John Cena." That's all right, kid.
Well, Brian Alvarez writes here, regarding the Evan Bourne push, part of it was that John Cena went to Vince McMahon and pretty much told him they were dropping the ball by not pushing Evan Bourne. Cena has a lot of pull with management because, well, he's John Cena, but it's not like the 90s Shawn Michaels where he takes advantage of it and everyone wants to kick his ass. The other reason was because with Daniel Bryan being moved up to the main roster and Caval being pushed to one of the top stars of NXT, the company is trying to condition fans to accept a smaller guy in the main event scene.
Caval being Low-key.
Yeah.
That's so weird, isn't it? That Low-key was on WWE programming. Senshi to you TNA fans.
And Low-key. He was Low-key first, and then he came back as Senshi because they were like, well, WWE brand all of their wrestlers with names they control. We should do that as well. Austin Starr. Brian Alvarez also writes, WWE is not only encouraging all the workers to get on Twitter, but they've also opened up WWE Fan Nation's YouTube channel. WWE's always been a little bit behind the times in certain areas of technology, and if you're wondering why, all you have to do is watch the early episodes of NXT where Michael Cole was scripted to say that only geeks use Twitter and search the internet. It was probably pointed out how behind the times they were with their Prime demo making goofy statements like that. There's been a 180. Still a bit goofy as the guys are being encouraged to go on Twitter, but only about their storylines, which pretty much makes following them pointless except for the comedy factor. The YouTube thing is interesting because they avoided it for a long time, partly because TNA had a YouTube channel, and the feeling was that anyone can put things on YouTube, and thus it was below the company to have their own channel when they could just host the videos themselves on their own website. But a lot has changed since then.
I'd say they did a bit of a 180 on that in the end. They've got one of the largest YouTube channels on the planet. What you said just there, though, it reminded me that this isn't just the mishandling of 8 guys' potential main roster push in the Nexus storyline. We kind of will be covering the origin story of heel Michael Cole.
Yeah, I suppose we will. Yes, we will.
Because that is a character that he established in season 1 of NXT.
And we've got the Rise of the Miz coming up soon. So that's when he gets full into the Miz in the next couple of episodes.
It's because he starts ragging on Daniel Bryan so much. Like, he's meant to be this objective play-by-play announcer, but on NXT, Vince gave him the character of hating Daniel Bryan and indie wrestlers because he's the voice of WWE. And then that is slowly transferred to the main roster because Vince realizes it's a way for him to let out one of his kinks of just calling us rubbish all the time.
Yeah, well, he doesn't like us as fans.
No.
Because we often say that we don't like the product. And we should just watch it as fans.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're encouraging wrestlers to get on Twitter. So how's that going? Well, the Wrestling Observer is reporting that Ted DiBiase got pulled over for doing 83 and a 70. He talked to the officer for 15 minutes about wrestling and thought that would get him off the hook, but it didn't.
Oh, good try, though.
He tweeted a picture of himself. I guess he thought that was for a storyline arrest, which was basically him sitting in the car looking morose with the officer in the background.
He posted a picture of him being arrested. It's like, I think I've used this analogy before, it's influenza hitting South America in the 15th century. They just had no defenses for it. So when wrestlers get Twitter in 2010, they're like, well, I guess it's like, we can just, here's us. Here's our unfiltered thoughts. And all of a sudden, Kurt Angle is getting hacked in quote marks, but he's really just drinking and tweeting. It's the old Big Damo meme.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to tell you. Some wrestlers are effing stupid.
See, the idea is they're on Twitter, but they're only supposed to be tweeting about storylines. But here's Ted DiBiase being like, lol, just got arrested. And also, here's another one. Matt Hardy has been going nuts on Twitter to the point where people are wondering if he's trying to get fired. Based on the past history with Matt and the internet, my guess is that he's just not thinking about the ramifications of his actions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a work. Yeah. What is it, Matt?
I don't know, man. He's an angelic Diablo. That's the problem with Matt Hardy. So, what's interesting as well about this angle that we're doing here, and it's kind of interesting to certainly look now in 2025 eyes, is that this is the 3rd invasion angle within the past weekend. Because
really,
AAA and CMLL also did invasion angles over the weekend at their shows. So AAA, which was Triple Mania 28, was built around a new invading group, Los Perros de Mal, who are actually a CMLL faction, with Perro Aguayo Jr. leading. Wow. Penta's a former member, it turns out. And there was the match between... That show was also built around the match between LA Park and La Parka for the rights to the La Parka name. So it was the original La Parka. But it was the original La Parka, who's now LA Park, versus the new La Parka. And the winner gets to be the actual La Parka. LA Park first pinned La Parka in a match where the loser could no longer use the name. However, it was later ruled the match was a no contest at the end of the show. Then at a press conference, Dorian Rowland, who is now a babyface, said that Park, who was the La Parka in WCW in the 90s, had won the match and was the sole owner to the La Parka name. However, there was still talk of the commission once again overruling the result. This is AAA.
Oh yeah, the commission, the board.
They're saying that...
the network.
It's really funny as well, because they said the other Parker has become more popular in recent years because he's had so much television time, even though the crowd cheered the Rudo Park. And he's a company guy who would be nothing without the gimmick. The new Parker's body is destroyed. It would be very difficult for either of these guys to remain a top attraction without the costume, but that's also why there's so much interest in the match. And with CMLL, they were doing CMLL contra los Inversores, apologies, I didn't do Spanish at school, or CMLL against the Invaders with the independent promotion. CMLL, in an attempt to revitalize business, has brought in a number of wrestlers that were either considered too old, such as the returning Dinamita brothers and Rayo de la... or gimmicks guys CMLL would never have used, heel ref Tirantes and Latin Lover. In addition, the weekend saw the surprise heel turn of Volador Jr., who will continue his feud against Mystico that started when Mystico was in his short-lived heel run.
Mystico being Sin Cara, eventually.
Indeed, yes. That's all of the news. But, you're probably into your films at this point, right? What do you think's number one at the UK box office?
Well, I know what will be number one very soon, and that's the A-Team, thanks to this terrific promotion from the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. We'll get on to that. 2010.
Yeah.
June 2010.
Do you want to give you some context? So this has been number one since the end of May. It beat Street Dance 3D, which itself beat Robin Hood, which itself beat Iron Man 2.
Which beat Robin Hood with Russell Crowe in.
Yep, that's absolutely right.
An Iron Man 2.
And before that, we also had Date Night, Dear John, Clash of the Titans, Nanny McPhee in the Big Bang, Alice in Wonderland, Avatar in its third release, Valentine's Day, and Avatar. Oh, sorry, I should say this. It's third time at the top of the box office. So this is now, it's been number one since the end of May.
Well, an Iron Man 2 was released when?
Iron Man 2 was released in May, at the start of May.
Okay, well, I'm just sort of seeing if it's not Avengers, is it? That's too soon.
No, it's too soon.
Is it a Batman movie?
No.
Is it a superhero movie?
No.
Oh, no. Well, it's not Fast 5. It's not G.I. Joe Retaliation.
No,
we know that's all next year.
Also, I don't want to give any spoilers for a future episode. The A-Team is not a number one movie at the UK box office.
It never gets to number one. I saw that film at the cinema. I was really excited for it. Yeah. Liam Neeson.
Surely
where is he on this show? Why isn't he here?
It's more of a Rampage thing.
Very good. That is a very good private joke between me and Luke. Can you give me some more clues? Not on the context, but on like what this film is.
It's a spin-off from a TV show.
Another one.
A very popular TV show.
Oh, is it the In-Betweeners movie?
No. American, HBO. And it came back for a movie, and this is...
Sex and the City 2?
Yes, Sex and the City 2.
The worst one?
The worst one, yes. It is going to be number one for a couple more weeks as well.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Some people are effing dumb. There's an all-time great online rant from Mark Kermode about Sex and the City 2.
Oh, yeah. I was massively into Kermode and Mayo at this point. Like, I think at this period of time, and it's this, and it's Adam and Joe on Six Music. That might have been actually the year prior to this. I was listening to... Do you know that James Buckley of The In-Betweeners has a podcast that he does with his wife? And it's basically them trying to do Shag, Married, Annoyed, but it's not quite as good. But they did an episode with Joe Thomas, who was also on The In-Betweeners with them. And it was really funny because it kind of reminded of what it's like when me and you do shows together and how you and I are as friends. When they did the second movie, the writers and the creators of The In-Betweeners, it's the first time they kind of leveled up and they were the directors of the second film. And they always described them as the fifth and sixth in-betweener of the cast because they were all just mates. But he said, but what that meant was that we just didn't respect them as directors. And he said that in particular, like James Buckley and Simon Bird kept pretending that they were competition winners. And then going up to them and like, all these people, they're here for you. Yeah. They're here to help you out. Would you like to call action? Because I could probably pull a few strings and get some. I'll go speak to some people and let you do that.
So dispiriting.
And then kept asking where the director of the first movie was.
One of those two people is Jesse Armstrong, the creator of Succession. He went on to be quite big.
And they're being like, look at you. Look, you've done well for yourself, haven't you? And they said that they had 6 weeks of rehearsals, but like rehearsals only went for a couple of hours because James Buckley kept saying like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And we just leave halfway
I'll make it up on the day.
So some reviews of the show at the time, because obviously this was genuinely a massive angle. You know, we talked about the impact that we had at the start of this. There's a lot to be said about it. The 3-hour Raw from the Americans Airline Arena in Miami felt like a stale, lame show for the first 2 hours and 50 minutes. It had little in the way of wrestling.
It did.
It had little in the way of wrestling, a lot in the way of really lame skits, and the whole show was played for laughs. Until the end. As it turns out, the beginning had you thinking nothing but frivolity, and then the angle at the end, where the cast of NXT did an invasion angle of sorts, destroying mainly John Cena, but also CM Punk, Luke Gallows, Jerry Lawler, ring announcer Justin Roberts, who had his shirt torn off and choked by Daniel Bryan, Matt Striker, timekeeper Mark Yeaton, and Chase Michael Cole away. The last several minutes of the show had the announcer's table turned over and the ringside area completely destroyed. Lawler was buried underneath the table, and with Cole gone, there was no commentary for the last several minutes of the show, during which the focus was on destroying Cena in an 8-on-1 attack. They tore up the ring, undid the ring ropes, removed the canvas and padding from part of the ring. The NXT guys who had established finishes, Wade Barrett's forward fireman carry and Justin Gabriel's 450, used them on Cena, who was then taken out of a stretcher. Although he kept his eyes opened and did give us a thumbs up to the live crowd while being taken out.
Forward fireman's carry.
Yeah.
The wasteland.
Yeah. There's a period of time where Meltzer and Alvarez didn't give the moves their name. They would just talk. Like Alvarez used to call Rock's finisher the Uranagi. Just call it the Rock name. The angle got super heat live and was compared to the original 1996 NWO angle that started the turnaround for business with WCW. Everyone from the NXT roster, including show also-rans like Michael Tarver, Darren Young, and Skip Sheffield, were aggressive, showed great heel-like tendencies, and basically came through with flying colors. Backstage, the reaction was they hit a home run. The vast majority of reaction we got was strongly positive, more than any angle in a long time. It was kept secret from almost everyone, as likely only those involved and very few others knew, and it was not on the show's format other than a vague finish. The match was set up by fan voting, and the way that everything was set up, the company went with legit voting results, and in this one, it appeared that the exception was the exception, where they wanted Rey Mysterio would be the opponent for Cena in the main event. They thought that Rey was going to win.
One. Yeah. He came third. He didn't even come second.
No, he came second.
Oh, he came second.
Yeah, Punk got 45% of the vote, Mysterio got 32, and Jack Swagger got 23.
Oh, I wrote those down wrong, I think. God, I've got so many notes. There's so many goddamn segments in this. I had a... Oh, yeah, you're right, sorry.
The angle would have worked better with Mysterio. It would have been a beatdown of two of the biggest kids' hero. It would have been a dual purpose for a dormant audience that seems to be losing interest as far as going to live events, and particularly pay-per-views, and it may have peaked enough to pay attention to the product. It is a risky proposition, but it's exactly what led to the NW angle being so strong and ushering in a new audience, or in the case of that angle, also bringing back an audience that seemingly followed wrestling in the 80s and gave up on it during the down period. Of course, attempts to reprise the NWO have been done to death, and none have kicked off as good as this. The fan voting throughout the show was legit. It was done in mostly a quick manner in the way that they would announce what to vote, and for most cases go to a commercial break, and then after a few minutes they would come back and tally up the scores. There wasn't enough time to fans get the word around to F with the system, which happened with TNA trying to do the ratings.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So if anyone is not aware, TNA were also doing a fan voting thing to vote who should be the new #1 contender to the title, and we kept voting for it to be Nigel McGuinness.
Desmond Wolfe.
But
Use his real name.
But TNA did not want to push Desmond Wolfe, so they just put him in 2-minute squash matches where he would lose, and then we kept voting for Nigel McGuinness. And the week after. And they were like, no, vote for Abyss. We want it to be Abyss. And we're like, nah.
Hulk Hogan wants it to be Abyss.
So we just kept voting for McGuinness instead. But really, with the way the choices were laid out, it was so controlled, whatever would happen would be fine. If the fans had chosen Swagger, the Invaders would have destroyed both of the company's world champion and the theoretical top guy on each brand. By pushing it that way, it could have actually really helped Swagger to be viewed as a top guy if he was front in line looking to be part of WWE's comeback, though it would have contradicted the heel character they've used for him. With Punk it worked because they established they weren't typical heels, and at least the show ended with the idea that WWE were in some form to be together against the Invaders, so they were not simply new regular heels, they would have appeared beating down Cena and Mysterio.
I do think it works better with Punk because so many bits of the angle feel different to a normal sports entertainment angle. Like you can hear the crowd go, "Oh!" as soon as Matt Striker gets knocked down. Yeah. Like, this isn't how this usually goes.
It's brilliantly filmed.
It's suddenly
as well.
Is it the crossfades?
No, I more meant like that bit when they attack Striker, it is just in like the corner. Like it's all the focus is on Cena looking around, and then all of a sudden you look, it's like, oh, that guy just gets decked.
Yeah, that bit's good.
Yeah,
but then we enter the crossfades, which I don't know who decided that
Kevin
that sort of war footage time lapse idea visual approach. But yet Punk doing it makes it feel like, but Punk's against Cena. He's a heel. These are heels. Why is a heel fighting the heels? Is he protecting John? I think it really makes it level up.
I completely agree with you. Meltzer does say there is a logic hole regarding why this happened with a dressing room full of not just every Raw wrestler, but every SmackDown wrestler, and nobody bothered to make the save. In particular, Evan Bourne, who had been seen as tag partner in the previous week and appeared with him in this show.
Yeah. I get. Let's cover that at the end because that probably is the only plot hole. But I don't really know a way around it.
Well, Meltzer, the way he would always say it, was like, you just have to show the door being barricaded, or like, the locker room trying to be open, but the door can't be open for whatever reason. You just need that one shot there as like and that's why no one ran down to make the save.
They could have all been gassed. Like the A-Team.
Ted DiBiase just left it running. Yeah. And unfortunately, everyone fell asleep in the locker room. No one could go to catering. When the NWO would have 3 or 6 people versus a company of 100 and beat them down weekly, and often nobody, or perhaps only one guy would come down to save at the end and also get beaten down week after week, those questions were never answered. It made no sense, but it did increase business greatly, even if long-term it led to long-term problems with the home brand. One of the reasons the 2001 Invasion angle was so bad was Kevin Dunn was always insistent to Vince McMahon that the WWE brand always had to be seen as superior to the other brand because you don't want to damage your own brands. Not realizing they owned the other fucking brands. They're all your brands. We're told this is an example of a new philosophy, which is to do angles out of the WWE norm. Basically, what WWF was criticized for not doing in 2001 when they had an influx of new talent from WCW and ECW. It's also what Jim Crockett Productions failed to do in 1987 with the purchase of the UWF. In the cases, the winners had the mentality that the losers didn't have enough talent, or perhaps it was simply egos and people established in their spots and feeling the newcomers weren't at their level. Still, what is often forgot about the 2001 angle is it did start off extremely strong. The first pay-per-view is still the most widely watched non-WrestleMania event in history, but it was the follow-up that killed it. Then he kind of goes on to talk about how, you basically got a bunch of guys here who are nobodies, and now you're asking them to and they're on the same level as John Cena, and that is quite a big, that's a big hill to climb.
But the angle's so well executed that, and it got it captured everyone's imagination so much. Yeah, it was a risk, but it worked.
Yeah,
even people like Michael Tarver, who ultimately didn't really go on to be anything. The way this angle is done, you're like, oh my God, Michael Tarver's going to be the future of this company.
He really does make sure that he's there.
Yeah.
I think he does a very good job of being not a case of I am also here. I think some of them feel nervous about it. I'm not, no disrespect to Heath Slater, but you can kind of see a look on his face where he's like, I'm just sort of panicking. I'm just going to go and do a bunch of things.
Yeah.
Michael Tarver picks his moments to be like, I'm going to make sure that I'm here. And he screams and he walks around the ring. I think he's actually got obviously it comes to nothing. And he is the weakest link of the group. But in this angle here, I think he knows I need to make myself look good here. The WWE side not putting over the outsider in 2001 did so based on the idea that there wasn't the talent on the other side that could go over. Ironic, since it was more established that the better the talent here, but part of the learning history is avoiding the mistakes of the past. The WCW guys also worked a different style, a faster pace, bumped at different intervals, basically were taught differently. Many were thus categorized as not knowing how to work, such as DDP and Chris Kanyon, even though they had plenty of good workers and great matches for years. They then talked about how Daniel Bryan might suffer a similar thing, because it's like, well, he's the best wrestler in the world, and now he's going to be like, oh, no, you don't know how to work. It's impossible to know what the potential of this is. It's harder for pro wrestling to make new stars than ever before, because even though there's plenty of people still watch wrestling religiously on television, they don't watch it as closely or take it as seriously. New people don't get over as easily as any real time in the history of the industry. The start-stop pushes of the past decade have been damaging because fans won't emotionally invest in younger talent because the rug has been pulled out from them so often. Now you have an angle where the key antagonists are all new people. It is the NWO idea, but it's the exact opposite. It's the NWO where established stars from the top of a rival promotion, and the angle ballooned and ended up being watered down, eventually collapsing under its weight when the new stars weren't allowed to be in top positions. There are plenty of lessons from that era, putting on heat that could be build a following, but also lessons of what happens when you don't plan for the future. TNA tries to do something similar with the main event Mafia, but again using older stars with the gimmick of being an elite group of former world champions. The main event Mafia angle did lead to TNA drawing its best ratings and did increase house show business, but in the long run it ended up making the progress of the younger talent poorer, and the adversarial frontline group was booked terribly. I'm sure we won't have that problem here. Dave Meltzer words.
Oh. Well, the optimism of the time. Well, and obviously it fell apart. As you were talking about that, though, it's a really interesting inversion that, NWO, Main Event Mafia, their faction invasion angles that rely on them being huge stars already. Like, none of those were designed to get over a new talent, were they? They were just a reframing of existing talent because they were getting a bit stale. I suppose Evolution is a better example where you had like Triple H and Ric Flair to build Orton and Batista.
It's what we've got at the moment with Seth and Braun. The idea of that group is to elevate Braun.
So that's a sort of halfway house. Yeah. But this is the complete opposite, where it's just 8 brand new guys who haven't even really featured on WWE TV, the main roster, just the Nexus, the NXT show. But WWE don't know what to do with it. I feel like we need new stars. We need to freshen this up. Boom, let's do this. But there's 8 guys there. And they never had their one guy who they were in love with. Like, Wade is fantastic, but I don't think they ever saw him as, you are the next John Cena. No. They always probably saw him as, you are the guy who will feud on and off with John Cena and occasionally hold a world title.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Nexus did have to fail for WWE to learn the lessons to book the Shield right.
Could be,
It's concentrated. It's 3 people rather than 8.
Yeah.
They're booked strong throughout because they believed that Roman Reigns was the future of the company.
Yeah, they picked the one guy.
But this Nexus, maybe ultimately, they only ever saw them as John Cena's villain of the month.
Well, yeah, I think with Wade in particular, because Wade is, he's the leader of this group. He is the figurehead of this, and he's got the world title shots, and he's going to be feuding with Randy Orton towards the end of the year over that WWE Championship. I think the way they look at it is he is a guy to win the title that eventually will lose it to John Cena at a different show. And you're right, it's just villain of the month type thing. Because I think, these 8 guys. Yeah, sure, we've got 8 brand new guys, but those 8 guys also are Michael Tarver and Darren Young and Heath Slater. And it's like, these aren't future WrestleMania main eventers. And I think Meltzer kind of talks about this, and I skipped over a little bit, but it's like, you don't need all 8 of them to get over. You just need 3 of them. You just need to get 3 of them to be, and it probably was going to be, in the idea here, Wade Barrett, Justin Gabriel, Skip Sheffield.
Yeah.
Not Daniel Bryan. Like, Daniel Bryan's not one of those guys. He would have been seen at the same as a Heath Slater and, the other guys. But those other 3, particularly Skip Sheffield, because he's massive, and Justin Gabriel, because he can do the 450. And they make such a big deal of that 450, and I love what they do with that 450. But I think what they haven't got is the next step. They've got this angle, and they do it awesomely, but they don't know what they're doing for next week's show.
Oh, do you not think they had 7 versus, or maybe 8 versus 8 originally at SummerSlam?
Maybe that's like a loose plan, but I think if you've done an angle as big as this, you've mapped out the next 6 months.
Yeah.
And I don't think they have the next 6 months mapped out.
Well, you've got to really book through to WrestleMania. Yeah. That's the end of this story, and that should be... WrestleMania should probably be John Cena beating Wade Barrett back for the belt.
Yeah,
after Wade Barrett has gone for a long reign with the championship, and the Nexus are at the top of WWE.
Cena, makes his return, wins the Royal Rumble, and then he's going to face Wade Barrett for the title, and he's going to win that, disband the Nexus, and that'll be the end of that.
Doesn't quite go that way.
No. Cena will be champion instead. Is he? No, he's not champion, is he? He's just facing The Rock. Who is champion?
Miz.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah, you're right. It is The Miz. Yeah, when we get to I think we actually get to review that. When
Miz's title win.
No, because it's on an episode of Raw. I've actually got a story about that.
Yeah.
I bought the pay-per-view where they basically said, oh, yeah, Miz is going to cash in. They basically promoted that show as like, either Wade Barrett's going to win the title or Miz is going to cash in, and neither thing happens. And in the end, Miz does it on Raw the following day. And
why is no one buying our shows?
And, fun fact, a bit of Luke history, I then had my first op-ed posted on figure4online.com the day after that episode of Raw.
I didn't know you were a published opinion piece writer on F4W.
I sure was, yeah. About how I will not buy a WWE pay-per-view again because it's, they advertised 2 things, did neither of them, and then did it on free TV the following day.
And how did that go? Did you buy any more pay-per-views after that?
I think did I buy? Yes, I would have bought The Rock. I bought the. I bought the. You have to talk about it. I bought the WrestleManias. I didn't buy any beat. No, I didn't buy a couple of beat shows. I bought Money in the Bank 2011. But again, it's that.
Yeah, but never.
But never.
I am done.
Apart from those ones, I'd buy Hell in a Cell with Punk and Ryback as well.
But
after that, I'm not doing it again.
And I got a VPN explicitly to get the network as soon as it was properly available. But other than that, you're not seeing any more of Luke's pennies.
I think I proved my point, and I voted with my wallet.
We are the problem sometimes.
We are.
This is an episode based around viewers' choice.
But again,
and the viewers constantly make the wrong decisions in their votes.
But also, that's what I mean about, I said it earlier, there was always those spark moments. You have like a spark moment, and then 2 months later, you're like, I'm done. And then somehow they're like, here's another spark moment. You're like, oh, great, I'm in again. And then 2 months later, it's like, no, I'm done. And then here's a spark moment. I'm back in. No, I'm done again. And this would happen, months and months and months until 2019, I guess. But anyway, should we get into the show itself?
Yes. Do you not want to give me the song? You've given me the.
Oh, you're right. I skipped over that. I was so excited to talk about the review. But you do want to have a guess of what the song is?
2010 June. So it's not quite full summer.
It is.
Is it Nicki Minaj?
It is.
Is it Let's Go to the Beach? It
is not. I'll give you a little bit of some context. So this is its first and only week at the top of the charts. It beat B.O.B. featuring Bruno Mars. Nothing on You.
B.O.B. Bruno Mars. No, isn't it B.O.B. and Bruno Mars?
Well, this says featuring Bruno Mars on Wikipedia.
Is it also featuring Rivers Cuomo?
Oh, I clicked the wrong thing.
Maybe not. Maybe that's You Got the Magic in Me.
Yeah, Nothing on You. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not Rivers Cuomo on that one, I'm afraid. But
that was in Rivers' weird I'm gonna be a mainstream pop star phase.
Yeah, Pinkerton is still holding over him.
Yeah, it is.
So before that, before Nothing on You, it was Roll Deep and Good Times, Diana Vickers and Once, Usher with will.i.am, OMG.
This isn't helping me. What's the actual...
Scouting for Girls, This Ain't a Love Song, was also top of the charts. Lady Gaga featuring Beyonce, Telephone.
That's a great tune.
That's a banger. Yeah. That is an absolute tune. Tiny Temper, Pass Out, Jason Derulo, In My Head.
This is my era for music right there.
Yeah. Owl City, Out, Fireflies.
Pass Out by Tiny Temper has a lyric where he says... He's saying all the things that he has done, but then he says, but I've never been to Scunthorpe.
Yes!
And it's like, you only said that because it was the only thing you could think of that rhymed with the previous word. But to this day, when someone says Scunthorpe, which is like a small British town, I think of Tiny Tampa.
I do too. And this was the era of, because I've mentioned this in a previous podcast, this is around the time I was doing my first podcast as well. 2009.
The Ladcast?
The Ladcast, yeah, absolutely. Because Lady Gaga's Bad Romance is top of the charts at one point as well. And that was, we were doing a weekly challenge thing, and one of the challenges we had to do was misheard lyrics.
A classic of any dude's podcast.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I was doing mine on Bad Romance. Of Bad Romance, as in Romans.
Oh.
Yeah. It's pretty good, actually. But anyway, would you want to guess what
Give me a bit more of a clue of what this... Like, is it a male solo artist?
It is a male rapper, British.
Chipmunk.
No.
Dizzy Rascal.
Oh, Dizzy Rascal. But what is the song?
Bam, 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 bam. Is it that one?
I don't know. It's off his fourth studio album, Tongue in Cheek. It features background vocals from former One True Voice member Daniel Pierce and samples the Staple Singers 1972 track, I'll Take You There. So I think my first thing to note, having now gone back and watched an episode of Raw from 2010, is, A, not a good show, B, guest host era, C, short matches.
Yeah, but also they take an eternity.
Kane and Sheamus may only be 7 minutes and 30 seconds, but it feels much, much longer.
And it doesn't have a proper finish, it's just Sheamus backing away.
Yep.
Yet some things aren't even matches. They're body slam competitions.
Well, that does happen, So the first match is 2 minutes and 55.
Is it? Does that go into an ad break at all? It's just that's
just
the bell rings and then the bell rings and technically the bell rings again.
Yes, it does, but not the third time.
No, weirdly.
Yeah.
Inconsistently.
So it's 2:55. Then we have a 1:17 match.
Did you go and time all these? Because these aren't on Cage Match.
Yeah, it is on Cage Match.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, I went to the Cage Match. I'm not sitting there with a stop clock. I'm not Meltzer. The Battle Royal is 3 minutes 50.
Whoa. There's like 10 women in that match.
There's actually 12.
There's 12 women in a 3 minute 50 match.
Yeah.
So they have less than 20 seconds in per person?
Yeah. And there's a big spot at the ends, which is probably more than 20 seconds. Kane and Sheamus is 7 minutes 30. The tag match is 3 minutes 20.
No.
Yeah.
That's 10 minutes. That is a 10-minute match.
Randy Orton.
How did they build a hot tag in 3 minutes 20?
Randy Orton and Edge is 1 minute 40.
Yes, I can believe that.
Yeah. Then we have Matt Hardy and Drew McIntyre is 1 minute 25.
Oh my God. People say Raw needs more wrestling now.
Yeah.
Look at this back then. This is a 3-hour show as well.
Yeah, and the main event is 10 minutes. Because it's the main event of the show.
Yeah, that's your big wrestling treat.
But I was thinking about this just the other day when we were watching Raw, and they have a segment on this week's episode of Raw when we're recording this, where the New Day talk to Chad Gable and be like, hey, American Alpha, or whatever you call it now, American Mage should have a match with the War Raiders and take them out. Maybe they can get... And that's announced for next week's show. In any old era of WWE, that match would have happened on that episode of Monday Night Raw. Yeah,
because in this era of Raw, Simon Longdon always described it as like the Muppet Show, in that it's not actually a wrestling show, it's a show about a wrestling show, where they, in kayfabe, go on air not knowing what's going to happen. So they have to book the main event in the opening segments. You're like, so you went on air at 7 p.m. not knowing what the show was going to be? And actually, they probably didn't, because Vince McMahon ripped up the script a couple of hours earlier.
Yeah, we've had 2 weeks of Raw now where there has not been a main event for the show until the show has started.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe they're going back into some of these old tropes. All you've got to do now is add a few more matches to the card. Regardless, I don't think there is actually time in that 2.5-hour show to add more wrestling to it. And I have seen that as a criticism of WWE at this point in time, which is that, last week's Raw, I think, had 4 matches. It's like, can you imagine you're paying like £250 a ticket and you're getting 4 matches.
Well, the WWE audience, I've said it before, and weirdly, you got all the heat.
I did.
It's like you can see going back to 2010, like we are now, they are training the audience to not care about the in-ring wrestling. WWE is about the storylines, it's about the entrances, it's about a couple of big moves. And that dates back to when Vince McMahon Jr. took over, but probably dates back to Vince McMahon Sr. Because it was the other promotions that had the good in-ring wrestling, that did the logical storytelling, that focused on putting on fights, whereas this was more sports entertainment.
Sports entertainment is what it is. Watching it, it felt long as a show. Got to a point where
this episode of Raw. Oh my god, yeah! I do 4-hour WrestleManias for this show in one sitting.
Yeah,
I had to break this up into 2.
This felt like it took me all afternoon to watch because I kept having to pause it to make notes, go and research something, come back to it. I have got pages upon pages of notes that are mostly inconsequential. But it got to a point where I was like, oh my God, this show's only 20 minutes old and I've made 3 pages of notes on this.
It's also, I look back at 2010 and I think, well, that's sort of the year of the reality era is what we kind of called it when we were living through it. Quite optimistically looking back. You've come out that the PG era was 2006 to 20. Are you checking that?
I'm checking that I did actually press record.
I got the same thing. I was scared your camera wasn't recording. We're responsible for each other's cameras today. But yeah, we got the PG era is largely seen as starting in 06, 07, goes on for a couple of years. And then with the Punk Pipe Bomb, so we're a year pretty much exactly out from that. It's the reality era. It's when Twitter comes in. It's the NXT show. It's people doing more shoot-style angles, leaning into that reality TV popularity that's very successful elsewhere. So I think back at 2010 Raw and I think, well, it's probably a bit more gritty. You had the Nexus thing. The main story going through the whole night is someone has stolen Jerry the King Lawler's crown and the A-Team have to find it.
Because no one does brand integration like WWE.
That sounds like it was written in the cartoon era of, 1993 WWF.
Well, that's why the cartoon characters show up at the end, because it is IRS and Virgil and Rowdy Roddy Piper and the American Dream Dusty Rhodes show up. Mean Gene Okerlund is a big part of this.
But nowadays, we get really compelling bookend narratives to Raws in general. I was just like, I guess you could say one of the hooks is, who's John Cena going to face in the main event? Because it's viewer's choice. But the main storyline is Jerry the King Lawler's crown has been stolen.
And I would argue that is actually not the main story.
Because, what's the main story?
Well, I think that what you're talking about is the main story. I think the A-Team are the main story, but the Jerry the King Lawler MacGuffin crown becomes quite inconsequential to the story after the first segment that sets it up. Because Jerry the King Lawler is on commentary for the rest of this show and doesn't mention it.
Yeah, nor is he in the final segment where the crown is retrieved.
Exactly, yeah. And then he just says, when he gets back, oh yeah, here's my crown.
They don't even care about their own crap storylines.
Yeah. At one point, I'm pretty sure Jerry Lawler says, I'm going to vote. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, when he can get his laptop to work.
We'll get to that.
It's like Michael Cole's there with Jerry's got a WWE.com open on his screen.
And it looks, even though it's only 2010, that looks like ancient era old internet. It looks like it was from like 2001. It was on Windows 97.
Really boxy website design. And Lawler is using it. And Cole's like, oh yeah, you're not very good with technology. I'm like, it's a laptop.
Also, if he's not good, don't have him do it.
He's hardly like booting up Linux. he's a multi-choice 3-part question.
Yeah, creating his own
Rey
disc.
Mysterio, Jack Swagger, or CM Punk? Which one? If I move this, does the mouse move on the screen? Insert Jerry the Lawler one-liner about mouse and pussy. I don't know.
Did you get any nostalgia for the intro, though, the bumper?
I did.
Ladies and gentlemen, we promised you a great show tonight. Andre, the John WrestleMania!
Dun, 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 dun.
The whole world is watching.
It's weird, isn't it? And it's the power of nostalgia, where that used to play, and I used to be like, oh, I'm in for a bad time. And I'd still get it with the theme song.
Yeah.
We're going after to get like, makes me cringe when I hear that.
Nickelback. Everyone likes them now.
I don't.
Everyone's reappraising them.
No.
How You Remind Me is a good song.
It is a good song.
Yeah. Look at this photograph.
Rockstar's a good song.
Rockstar is a good song.
Yeah, it's a couple of good songs.
Yeah. So everyone now has decided to reappraise them, that maybe you were wrong about them. You were wrong about them and Attack of the Clones.
I booted up Disney Plus the other day, and the UK top 10 had episode 1 and episode 3 in the top 10.
Yeah.
And New Hope was like number 7. I thought, this is why this country is going to the dogs.
My mate, because it's the 20th.
What has Keir Starmer made us?
Because it's the 20th anniversary of episode 3 and they re-released it in cinemas.
Oh, that's why.
And a friend of mine went to go see it at the cinema and he posted up his Letterboxd review, which was 5 stars, and he called it a masterpiece.
Ironically.
No. He genuinely believes that episode 3 is a masterpiece of cinema.
Oh, wow. What an idiot. I'm so sorry.
It's a full, in-depth review as well about, why the film is so good.
Do you remember what I was talking about earlier about TNA and how much I loved it, despite knowing deep down it wasn't that great? Yeah, well, I guess it ain't going out of fashion. But the now hearing that sting, it did make me a bit nostalgic, which is weird because I hate this period.
Speaking of people who clearly are not enjoying themselves, Bret Hart opens the show, who's apparently, I forgot this, the GM of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, Bret Hart was brought back to WWE because they were scared of TNA.
Legit, though, that
is true.
It's the only reason Bret is back. It's because they were worried that TNA might get a foothold on Monday nights with Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff. So they were like, we need to bring back Bret. That's the only thing we've got.
January 4th, the first live episode on Monday nights, running head-to-head with Raw of TNA Impact, had Hulk Hogan, Jeff Hardy, Eric Bischoff, Ric Flair, Rob Van Dam, I think, as well.
I think he debuted a couple of weeks later, but yeah.
Well, it's an all-out show, and WWE brought back Bret Hart. One of the things we never thought would happen. They brought him back, and they had a segment where he made up with Shawn Michaels.
It was 2 segments advertised. But the opening segment, to make sure you were there at the opening of the show and not watching Spike TV, was Bret and Shawn in the ring for the first time since Survivor Series 97. And the main event of the show would be the first time that Bret and Vince are in the ring for the first time since 97.
And you can see here how much Bret loves being back, because he had that fantastic WrestleMania match against Vince.
Did.
And then after that, he was made the GM.
Well, after that, he won the United States Championship from The Miz.
Oh my God. Yeah, and he didn't take a bump.
He didn't take a bump. He won the title because the Hart Dynasty beat up The Miz. And the reason why he is the GM now is because he vacated the championship because he became the GM.
Right. And then, you know what? I've actually forgotten this until we're talking about it right now. He main events SummerSlam.
In a Batman t-shirt. Yeah. In a Batman t-shirt and jeans.
If you think Bret Hart doesn't give any Fs now, he gave the exact same amount of Fs back when he made his full-on return. WrestleMania 41. You can tell him, he does that expression to Triple H when he shakes his hand, rolling the eyes.
Let's go 4 out of 10 over here.
Because he opens this show with
nice to be
Teddy
here tonight.
Long.
Welcome to Monday Night Raw. Tonight is viewer's choice. That means that you, the WWE Universe, will get a vote on what the matches are, and I think you're going to make the right choices.
It's a pretty
Teddy
good impression, but maybe you spoke too quickly. Or maybe you remembered too many of your lines. Because, yeah, Brett and Teddy are out there. Brett is the general manager of Raw. Teddy is the long-running manager of SmackDown. Thoughts on Teddy Long as SmackDown general manager?
I didn't watch the show.
Just there.
You know, people like him, but, you know, nostalgia's a hell of a drug.
So
you're going to go one-on-one with The Undertaker. It's a me.
They explain the gimmick that Michael Cole has just explained to us on commentary and will explain every 5 minutes throughout the episode.
And run down the results.
This is the viewer's choice, which means the viewers will be given 3 choices. They could be match stipulations. They could be opponents.
Tag partners.
And they vote on them, and that's what WWE do. That's the whole reason behind this 3-hour Raw.
Yeah.
And Bret Hart explains this. And then, like, forgets his lines?
I think he's always looking for the next cue. Because, like, when, like, you know, the music dips down and stuff, he's, like, looking to various different people to be like, do I talk now? Now is it? Is it now? Welcome to Monday Night Raw.
So let's look at the bit where Brett just stops talking. And he stops reading his script. The way he looks at the hard cam makes it look like he's expecting an auto cue to be over the hard cam that he can read off of. But yeah, Teddy gives him this look like, you're not gonna you're not gonna keep talking.
And then he goes, that's right, player.
Yeah, and it's painful. I was dying watching this. Okay, so let's watch it in its beautiful entirety. And it ends with Randy Orton's music playing because they're like, we've got to send Randy out. And Teddy is just begging with, Randy Orton. Yeah. I hope Randy Orton doesn't come out. Oh, I think, let me go back a bit further.
Go back a bit further.
Oh, that's way too far.
I'll set you up here.
2 minutes 25, mate.
2 minutes 25?
Or 2 minutes 20.
2 minutes. Okay, so let's go to about here.
Oh, no, that'll be way too long. Do 2 minutes 20.
2 minutes 20? That is on. Oh, sorry. I was on 2 minutes 20, but I'm not. Here we go. So right, now we're cooking on gas.
The end of Brett's short promo.
Everyone that's involved in the WWE Championship Fatal 4-Way is going to see action tonight, but you are going to decide who their opponents are.
He seems in pain. So Teddy's like, and? keep going.
No, I just wanted to put, you can hear him sniff into the microphone. Listen, you can hear him go.
Look at the face, Teddy's face as well. Like,
because Teddy's going,
yeah.
You can listen out for the sniff.
Involved in the WWE Championship 4-Way is going to see action tonight, but you are going to decide who their opponents are. All right. Well, Brent, I'll tell you what. Here's what we got to do right now, player. Let's talk about Randy Orton.
Please. But Brett doesn't say anything. Brett goes to talk and he stops.
Brett's like, what about him? We need to talk about Randy Orton.
Look,
what? Why?
This is the face of a man like, please, Brett, give me something. We've got to talk about Randy Orton. When I step on your foot.
Brett's face is like, why?
Feel the dead air. just bask in the dead air after Teddy says Randy Orton.
Yeah. Let's talk about Randy Orton. All right.
All right, Brett's forgot his lines.
Right, okay, let's send him out.
It's Teddy's face of like, all right, okay then. Watch his little smile.
All right.
And
then, thank God, they hit Randy Orton's music.
Oh, it's so good. I actually, because I didn't watch the Raw before this, or know that we were building up to Fatal 4-Way. I think, and I blame Brett in this because he doesn't care.
Yeah.
But he does such a bad job explaining that there is a pay-per-view coming up that's got a fatal 4-way match. Because he said there's going to be a fatal 4-way match. I thought that was tonight.
Yes, yeah. But no, it's the pay-per-view called Fatal 4-Way. Bit of a sidebar on this. This is because TNA were really successful with their pay-per-view format Lockdown, which is where every match takes place within a steel cage.
Beautiful. And it's genius.
Great thing to do once a year. Sure, it's really weird for most of those feuds who are only 2 matches in. Maybe a steel cage stip hasn't been earned.
No.
For some of those. But at the time, that was crazy and it was silly and it was the late noughties. We're all having a good time.
And it worked.
WWE saw that, and that's where we got the birth of the gimmick pay-per-view, which they ran into the ground, honestly, until a couple of years ago.
Money in the Bank is the Patreon episode, patreon.com/WrestleTalk to go and watch that now, is a gimmick pay-per-view.
Yeah.
They have taken it off of WrestleMania and made it a gimmick pay-per-view.
The Elimination Chamber. It used to be called No Way Out. Now it's called Elimination Chamber. Hell in a Cell was the worst for me.
Yeah, but there's
Hell in a Cell, and all of a sudden you got 3 Hell in a Cell matches a night.
Yeah, there's TLC becomes its own show. Fatal 4-Way becomes its own show.
But Fatal 4-Way, I feel like, is the one that and tables, ladders, and chairs and stairs. Or is that
that was a
match gimmick?
That was a match. No, that was a show unto itself. Not all of them were tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs. That was a one-off thing.
But I feel like Fatal 4-Way is the one where everyone went, nah, that's a gimmick pay-per-view too far.
Yeah, I don't need to watch 2 Fatal 4-Way matches for the world titles.
But it's just not an exciting enough gimmick.
No.
To sell a show.
Well, you got 4 big stars in the ring together, because at the pay-per-view it's going to be John Cena, an injured Randy Orton, Edge, and Sheamus for the WWE Championship.
How did he get injured, Luke?
His arm in a sling. He first injured his shoulder at the hands of Edge back at the Over the Limit pay-per-view last month. Well, last week, incensed apparently from an earlier RKO, Edge would ambush Randy Orton.
Because he had to open the door to get it, which means he couldn't have been that close to the door.
Orton is the baby face in this feud. This is a funny angle for a cool, nonchalant baby face who keeps injuring a bad heel. And he's just, sorry, I've opened the door. So what he's done, audio listeners, Randy Orton is standing 3 inches away from a door.
Just stock still.
Edge opens the door and slams it back into place, and Orton takes a bump.
Because you'd think if you opened a door and then you slam that door, it doesn't go further than the door frame quite famously stops doors.
But this is the big injury angle. I know that
the injury angle happened
on the
over the limits.
Yeah, but now they're like, and he's re-aggravated. I said,
Ambush Randy Orton. Well, you're right.
I'm confused. Actually,
look, because the door was closed. I still don't understand how he was hit by that door. The door was closed. Was he standing? Was he glitched into the door?
That's what it looks like. Because where he's landed, he's now straddling the inside of the door frame. So usually you should fall forward, shouldn't you?
Yeah.
He has somehow fallen backwards towards the point of impact.
It's like Del Boy in the bar. Like he was just leaning against the door, and then someone opened it. He went, whoa, and then they slammed it into him. Also, all-time terrible Randy Orton t-shirt.
Yes, that's really bad. Also, he looks like a teenager. Even though he's clearly a man in his late 20s, early 30s, I feel like because I'm so used to good Randy Orton now, who is thick, I think is the word to describe. He looks so small here.
Thin Randy Orton, man. Looks, it's creepy to see.
And he's clean shaven.
Yeah, this is why, and I think some younger viewers don't really get my take on this. I've never been a Randy Orton guy up until the last couple of years when he has just seemed to have fun and he's just enjoying himself wrestling now. I just always thought he was so boring.
Yeah.
Because he's just this. He's just this bland guy. And when I got back into wrestling, a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you got to check out this Randy Orton." I was like, "Is this it? Is this what? This is who you're replacing Mankind and The Rock and Steve Austin. This who's who you're replacing them with?
Well, he comes out and he says, I want Edge tonight because he slammed his arm in a door. And Edge comes out and says, well, I want a match as well. Let me finish what I've started and destroy Randy's arm. And then Teddy, he's got a cheeky idea. Mm-hmm. So he whispers it into Brett's ear.
Brett doesn't hear him.
Yep, Brett, whatever. And they announce that it's going to be viewer's choice. And we're going to let everyone in the audience decide on a sort of old-fashioned cheerometer. Mm-hmm. Edge will face Orton in a stipulation tonight.
Well, okay, so this is pretty big, right? So we're giving the audience carte blanche to vote on the match types. And that's three big, these are three different steps. It's going to be very hard to measure the audience reaction to this. Because I'd imagine that all three of these steps are going to be pretty cheerable.
A debate.
Mm-hmm.
B, a sit-up contest. Or C, a one-on-one with Edge's arm tied behind his back.
Okay, well, it's a tough choice for this crowd in Miami.
Look, I felt that way when they read them out, but then I was like, it's a thing because Teddy and Brett are babyface general managers. They are rigging the vote, so Edge has to have a fair fight against Randy.
I agree. But they also do it in every other vote that's about to come up later on this show. Is they give you two bad options and one option to vote on.
They do. But this is very clearly bad.
Yeah, this is,
So, they all do the cheer. The crowd obviously cheer for the arm tied behind his back, and we'll get that later on.
Yeah, our opening contest is going to be Chris Jericho taking on The Big Show, but what will the stipulation be? Will it be an over-the-rope challenge, a submission match, or a body slam challenge? The vote is yours.
Well, I enjoyed playing the game of, well, these are clear winners, right?
Yeah.
And I was consistently proved wrong.
What?
Well, I was like, everyone likes Jericho.
He's a heel here.
Yeah, but it's Jericho. I guess maybe I'm thinking of a smarter crowd, a smarkier crowd.
They voted for a dance-off later in this show. This is not a smarter crowd.
But that was a comedy feud. That was Santino and Kozlov. Absolutely vote for the dance-off. This is Jericho. People, even if he's a bad guy, love seeing the walls of Jericho. Mm-hmm. I thought submission match.
I mean, it comes second. You know, we get the results.
It's quite close.
From Matt Stryker. Over the top rope gets 11%. Submission gets 41%. Body slam gets 48% of the vote. Big Show is the baby face. So this is to... Jericho is the dastardly heel, gets Big Show some cheers. He is very happy. Jericho recently split up. They were the tag team champions, the unified tag team champions quite recently.
Really fun tag team. I like their act together. I mean, it was so good that even in AEW, didn't they do a slight angle together? Yeah.
So they broke up. I actually went to find where the breakup happened. They were feuding with DX over the titles, and then that had a match of bragging rights where Jericho was the co-captain for Team SmackDown, while Big Show joined Team Raw, captained by DX. That's what broke the team up. Also, they had a backstage segment where Big Show knocked Jericho out on SmackDown.
So bragging rights has already happened?
That was last year's bragging rights.
I see. But it's a body slam challenge, so Jericho tries to body slam Big Show.
Yeah, so at Survivor Series... Sorry, I did copy and paste this from Wikipedia, so everyone gets their facts right. At Survivor Series November 22nd, The Undertaker retained his World Heavyweight Championship after Jericho and Big Show turned on each other despite working together throughout most of the match. Jericho would then continue their feud with DX, they're still a tag team, through to December 13th TLC. They lost the Unified Tag Team Championships to DX in those Tables, Ladders and Chairs match, ending their reign at 140 days. Then on the December 14th episode of Raw, my birthday, they used their rematch clause against DX, who quickly intentionally disqualified themselves to retain the titles. As a result, Jericho from the SmackDown brand could not appear on Raw because he was no longer a unified tag team champion. DX granted Jericho yet another rematch for the tag team titles, with the additional stipulation that Jericho had to leave Raw forever if Jericho lost, which they did on the January 4th, 2010 episode of Raw, marking the end of Jericho.
Going a big step against TNA Impact.
Yeah, and so he's got to leave Raw forever. And here's Chris Jericho on Monday Night Raw. But it's a joint show because SmackDown's here as well.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. Leaving forever or getting fired or quitting, those stipulations will be dismantled throughout this series.
It will come up. So yes, you're right. So this is I actually, again, sort of misunderstood what the Fatal 4-Way was. I've written here, Big Show is part of a Fatal 4-Way for the #1 contendership. He's not. He is part of a Fatal 4-Way for the World Heavyweight Championship. But yeah, so the other guys in that match are Swagger, who is the champion, Ray, and Punk. But yeah, Jericho tries to body slam him. Comedy, he doesn't. And then Show body slams him and wins.
Yeah, well, he wins. So he hits one body slam. It's a body slam challenge. I guess that's how you win the match. Everyone cheers, and the music goes, well, it's a big show. And then Show bends down, and he puts like the camel clutch into Jericho, and Jericho taps, and then the ring announcer rings the bell and goes, and the winner via submission is the Big Show. And then goes, well, it's the bit. Music plays. Okay, whatever. And then Big Show grabs Jericho and throws him over the top rope, which was the third other stipulation it could have been. And this time the ring announcer didn't ring the bell or say anything.
No.
But it still went, well. So we got Big Show's entrance music 3 times in a row.
Yeah. And also, does that not can make the viewer's choice redundant? Because they just did all 3 finishes anyway. It didn't actually matter what you voted for.
Yes, I think it immediately... So far, the 2 viewers' choices, one was clearly rigged, in kayfabe.
Yeah.
Kayfabe rigged. And the second one, they did them all anyway.
Dave Meltzer would write, ring announcer Justin Roberts announced the Show won via submission, but he didn't do the other one. But he probably had a lot in his mind in hindsight. Because he knew what was going to be happening later on in the show.
Oh, did he know?
I don't know. I don't think he did.
I always thought it was all quite secretive from everyone.
I think they probably did tell everyone because they're going to be attacked. So, the agents are probably going to be involved to work out bumps and stuff. I made, wrote in my notes here, the video file that we've got for this is 16 minutes long at this point. So with an ad break, probably about 20 minutes of Raw has gone. That's 2 Jey Uso entrances. Think of all we've accomplished. Yeah. We had that big pause between Bret Hart and Teddy Long. We've had Randy Orton, we've had Edge, we've had a match set up, we've had an actual match with viewer stipulations and an ad break in 20 minutes. They used to pack these episodes.
Oh yeah, there are so many segments on this show.
Up next, it's the Hart Dynasty, who are the tag team champions, not defending the titles, but having a tag team match against either Jey and John Uso.
You remember John Uso? Where's he in the bloodline?
John Uso.
Might as well be saying like Steve Uso.
But they do call him Jimmy on commentary, but his graphic says John Uso. So I think this is when they're making the switch to it. So it's either John and Jey Uso, the Dude Busters, one of which is Trent Beretta.
Do you know who the other one is? Kurt Hawkins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I actually just looked that up. I didn't know that.
And the other team is... now who am I going to vote for here? Could it be the Usos, who are feuding with the Hart Dynasty? Could it be the Dude Busters, who no one cares about? Or the team of the Great Khali and Hornswoggle?
Yeah, they vote for Khali and Hornswoggle.
Because none of it actually matters. Because despite the fact that WWE are telling you, we are feuding these 2 teams, this audience doesn't care about them. So they've just voted for the massive lad and the tiny lad because that's that's visually interesting.
And that's why I think all of us wrestling fans have to take some responsibility for how crap WWE got.
Bingo! I actually wrote in my notes here, you all deserve this show to be bad for another decade plus.
We can bitch and moan and say it's all Vince's fault as much as we want. There is a large portion of us, but not us. But the great unwashed version of the wrestling fan base, who voted for Great Khali and Hornswoggle to have a match against the Hart Dynasty with Tyson Kidd in.
Yeah.
We wouldn't get many more years of Tyson Kidd matches.
No. So yeah,
you wasted it.
So they are the tag team championships. They're unified. They will drop the second set of belts in August, and that's when you just go back to having one set of belts, which then gets changed again when we get to the 2016 brand split, and these tag belts will become the Raw tag belts. Interestingly enough, and I did actually find myself falling down a bit of a rabbit hole in looking this up, the tag belts that they retire are the original WWE Tag Team Championships that have been running since 1971, and the belts that they kept were the ones that started in the early 2000s with the first brand split.
Oh.
So the tag team, the ones the New Age Outlaws had, all those classic tag teams, That lineage died when they unify these belts in August, and they start a whole new lineage.
Do you feel, though, like it's more the original Flash and the Coast City Flash? Not Coast City, Central City Flash. They've just been merged.
Are you reading what DC at the moment?
Oh, what gave that away? The Tale of Two Flashes, famous comic book issue.
Yeah.
No?
Is it good?
Well, I've not actually read it.
Oh, okay.
But it's a big deal in the 60s, I think.
They get a shot of WWE.com because if you go there right now, you can see what WWE superstars look like in high school.
This is fascinating. So it's John Morrison, Mark Henry, and someone else. I think Michelle McCool, maybe. It's a website article, a written website article with pictures. I think so, a gallery of pictures. And a TV show is promoting written content on their website.
Go to WWE.com because look, you go there right now. This is how you can see the high school memories now and then. Yeah. And also, look, there's Low Key.
NXT's new rookies. Yeah, it's just a more innocent time of the internet where it wasn't all just Andrew Tate. And brain rot.
I don't know if you've seen this actually. Did I say that? There was this whole thing with Shinsuke Nakamura where like there was these rumors that he'd also been released.
Oh no, I didn't. I missed that.
So what it came from was there is a website that is quite clearly AI generated content that's reported that he was also part of the releases. And it spread like wildfire, being like, oh yeah, he's also been released, but no one's reporting on it. And Sean had to be like, no, he's still there. And I'm pretty sure this is AI written content. It's such a funny article.
Is it?
It's so weirdly written that I can't believe anyone would read it and think like, a human definitely wrote that. And I think that this is actually news. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this bit is also where we get the debut of this episode of the player select screen. Is it just before this?
When they're all lining up?
Yeah. So it's a camera.
If you scroll down by 2 fingers.
Oh. Yeah, so here they are.
Yeah.
So it goes in on each one, and they each have like a little promo bit. Look at the Usos back then. Those are two...
Now you better hope these people don't make it 3 weeks.
He's the world heavyweight champion now. John Uso. No, it wasn't John, was it?
It was Jay.
So the one on the right is John Uso. What happened to
John Uso? John Uso.
These aren't the same guys. They sent them back to the Bloodline compound, and they got 2 other family members to replace them.
So funny, isn't it? And then there's Tamina in the middle of them as well.
Yeah.
Mina.
Do you want to select these 2?
The Dude Busters.
Is that Kurt Hawkins?
Is it?
That's Trent Beretta on the left.
That's quite clearly Trent Beretta. Was there another Dude Buster?
Maybe there's a third Dude Buster. John Dude Buster? And then, the player select screen also goes... Blub, 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 blub.
And then...
and they do their poses.
Well, here's the comedy of it all, right? Because the Great Khali's really tall, right? And he goes... And Hornswoggle's really small, so he goes...
Well, there you go.
Doesn't that just sum up WWE? They pan... In 2010, they pan to the Great Khali, and there's this massive pop for him, and then he goes rah, and then the commentators go, and then,
horrible.
We're going up tonight
as Raw rolls on.
I can confirm as well that there were, there were 3 Dude Busters. Trent Beretta, Kurt Hawkins, and Kalen Croft. So that could be Kalen Croft.
Can you click on Kalen Croft's name?
I can do. It is that guy. It is that guy. Born in 1980, is best known for his time in World Wrestling Entertainment, competing on the SmackDown brand and part of Florida Championship Wrestling. His finishing move was the neckbreaker.
Interesting. The results were Dude Busters 10%.
Sorry, according to ProWrestling.fandom.com, his nickname was the Hitman. It's quite a famous wrestler with the Hitman nickname.
Oh, yeah.
He opened this show. You're not going to get yourself over pretty much, like too much, by going around calling yourself You might as well call yourself Stone Cold Kane Croft.
They unfortunately got 10%, so people weren't into them. The Usos, who I feel is what WWE wanted to win because they're actively feuding.
No, I think they wanted Great Khali and Hornswoggle to win.
They got 36%, and Khali and Hornswoggle got 54%.
So Khali at this point is the Punjabi playboy, which will tie into the storyline he's going to have because Natalya is in the corner of the Hart Dynasty, and that is going to lead to her and Khali having a on-screen relationship and romance storyline that JBL gets really upset about in that Royal Rumble that you and I reviewed.
Yeah, he described it as interspecies romance.
Yeah. Absolute stay at Tyson Kidd's hair as well.
Oh, it's Healy. But he's a baby face.
He's a baby face.
But he's so good. There's a few people on this show, Punk, Brian, it was someone else as well, actually. Maybe it was Tava, who just feel like they move differently from everyone else. And Tyson Kidd, he's the last trainee of the Hart Dungeon. He is a technician extraordinaire. And we get to see, 4 moves from him. Yeah,
and they win. They pin Hornswoggle.
Hornswoggle misses a splash, and Tyson pins him. Doesn't even hit his own move.
No. And then the Usos run down, and they brawl with the Hart Dynasty, which they've been doing for a few weeks, and the Hart Dynasty stand tall.
Yeah, because you got the Usos and Tamina, Hart Dynasty, and Natalya there. I guess you'd have an intergender trios match now.
Of course. Brian Alvarez would say of the match, talk about fans considering your tag team division a complete joke. Seriously, this result actually justified all those promoters who said fans don't know what they want to see. So then we cut to...
the main story of the night.
This is my favorite segment of the whole show.
No,
aside from the main event. The main event angle is obviously the best thing on the show. But this is the bit that made me laugh the most. Because Jerry Lawler, has to act, which is not his forte. And he's just like, he's at the commentary desk, and he's like, I've got a problem. I need to leave. And he gets up and he leaves. And Michael Cole's like, Jerry Lawler's off there. Anyway, on to more serious matters. Kane found The Undertaker in a vegetative state on SmackDown.
I also found this very funny. So I have written down the entire throw to the recap promo.
Do you want my note is here? I mean, it's okay. Ollie's going to write all this out. Here's all my notes. It's okay. Ollie will write this out. It's all nonsense. He probably did it. I'll check Wikipedia. Yeah, it's Kane. We'll see it playing out at SummerSlam.
So Lawler, he suddenly stops things, and they're trying to do like it's the Owen Hart, serious face sell. I've got a problem. And he walks off. And Michael Cole goes from, that feels like a real serious thing. Ladies and gentlemen, nonetheless, would be remiss if we didn't discuss the serious situation that's developed on SmackDown concerning The Undertaker. As we learned this past Friday night, Kane found The Undertaker's body in a vegetative state over Memorial Weekend. And this past Friday night, Kane sought revenge and solid answers.
Do you know what? Props to Michael Cole, because he didn't slip over a single word of that, and it is word salad.
Nonetheless, we'd be remiss if we didn't discuss. This is a show made for kids, apparently. They've already lost attention.
Yeah, in a vegetative state, which is also what Linda McMahon was in 2001. So clearly that's such a Vinceism.
Yeah, and it's so funny that Jerry did this serious thing, and then Cole's like, well, I'm gonna be just as serious for this. And it's The Undertaker.
In a vegetative state. And then we cut from that video package to a graphic with the A-Team. And it's like, coming up next, everyone, the A-Team are here.
I thought...
Look at this.
Yeah.
Sorry, I will play the transition out of the very serious video package. Because Kane's promo, by the way, listen to all this.
The most feared,
I think it's pretty good.
respected force in the history of the WWE. The Undertaker. My brother will no longer walk amongst us. His brilliance extinguished.
The red light Kane as well.
Yeah.
Gone forever. bonds of brotherhood. But soon enough, those responsible for this atrocity will be committed to a torturous existence that they cannot fathom. I will personally prosecute anyone who had anything to do with this tragedy.
It's definitely him, though, right?
Yeah. Absolutely him.
Never before imagined there will be vengeance.
And then he goes down to one knee and he starts crying to his brother's open casket.
Yeah. I should have been there.
So you don't like it?
No. I mean, look, it's all like, goofy nonsense. The Kane promos from 2010 were like what the Bray Wyatt promos will become, which is you just say a lot of things.
Yeah.
Very well delivered, but you are just saying a lot of things.
One of the things I was confused by, because I enjoyed it. Why has he got a podium?
It's an address.
Is that what this is? It's an address?
Yeah, he's addressing the vegetative state of The Undertaker.
Can you just bring out a microphone freestyle?
Michael Cole said he wanted to address this on SmackDown.
I guess it's kind of like a wake, like you go up and you say some nice words.
So we get the big crying and stuff, and then we get this. It's such a jarring transition to be like this big powerful bro. I should have been there. Bam, 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 bam. The A-Team come up next.
So this is the A-Team. It's the 2010 movie starring, let me get these straight, Bradley Cooper, Liam Neeson, Charlize Copley, and Rampage Jackson.
Yeah, UFC
MMA fighter, yes.
Yeah.
Which was, I've got to be honest, a little bit of fun. Yeah. I enjoyed the movie.
This was at a period in time of Hollywood were doing a lot of 80s reboots. Towards like the late 2000s into the 2010s, they were like, we're going to reboot every 80s property we can get our hands on. That's why we got like the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, Friday the 13th reboot, the RoboCop reboot, Total Recall reboot. And the other thing was adapting 80s TV shows. Miami Vice gets a movie with Colin Farrell. And this was just one of those, hey, we own the film rights to this 80s franchise that's got nostalgia to it and people know the theme song. Let's make a movie out of it.
I feel like that's still around.
Of course it is.
As in making 80s ones. I've always seen the A-Team, and there are a few other examples, but unfortunately I can't remember any of them, as a phenomenon specifically created by Starsky and Hutch.
Oh, the Owen Wilson,
Ben Stiller movie.
Which is really good.
Which is so good.
So good. It's very funny.
It's so funny. It's got a great storyline. It's off of the quite serious Starsky and Hutch. Well, not serious, but Starsky and Hutch. That was just your procedural.
It wasn't a comedy show, but they made it into a comedy movie. And
it was this idea of taking stuff that people loved as kids and not making fun of it, but making a pastiche of it where you still weirdly get to honor the source material that you loved watching growing up, but you have fun and it's a comedy and somehow neither undermines the other.
James Gunn's Scooby-Doo. I think does the exact same thing.
And actually the Brady Bunch movie.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. It's so funny.
But I remember this, weirdly, there was a sort of not a module, but we had a lesson on this when I did film at uni. And even like the most pretentious lecturers were like, Starsky and Hutch, man. That is a good film.
It's a good film.
And I feel like A-Team is of that same micro genre.
I think so, yeah.
Because they are it's more of a comedy. I know A-Team was very light, but they're trying to make it a full-on action movie while being a comedy at the same time, while gently mocking the source material in a loving way again.
Yeah, and it's playing into the tropes of the A-Team. You know, I bet you, I haven't seen them film since 2010, that B.A. Baracus gets on a plane.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't want to go on the plane, but I bet you at some point he is on a plane. But yeah, they're the guest hosts for tonight. But did you know that WWE has over 100,000 hours in its library, which powers WWE Classics on Demand?
Classics on Demand. We never had it over here, but people spoke very favorably of it. It was sort of the proto WWE Network.
Yeah. And out comes the A-Team, the guest hosts for tonight. They announced them as the actors. Only Rocket Raccoon comes out, though.
Yes, Bradley Cooper comes out. Liam Neeson is never there. And the other two are doing skits backstage until later on in the night.
So Matt Stryker says, tonight's guest hosts are the A-Team. And then Rocket Raccoon comes out and he says, we're the guest hosts tonight. And I'm like, yeah, I know, Matt Stryker's just told us that. But then he basically goes like, don't know where the other guys are. Film's out on Friday. Have a good show.
We got a great show for you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
I thought he would appear again.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, honestly, me too. What is he doing for the rest of the show?
He never appears again. And Rampage Jackson and Charlita Copley are kind of all over it.
Yeah, because they're doing Face and B.A. Barrett. Is it Face? Is he Face?
Murdoch.
He's Murdoch, isn't he? He's not Face, because Bradley Cooper's Face.
And who's Liam Neeson?
Oh, it's never a big 18.
I don't really know. I know B.A. Baracus.
Yeah,
I know Murdoch.
Yeah.
Then that's it.
So look, what was it? I might have even got this wrong.
So that we find out where those two are immediately after, because Lawler's backstage. That's a really serious thing that meant he had
Hannibal, that's Liam Neeson.
Yeah. Where Lawler had to abandon his position, his job, on a live broadcast. We find out what's happened. He's lost his crown.
Well, someone has stolen his crown.
Don't wait till after the show, Jerry.
Well, it's his crown. You know, this is very important. But thankfully, there is someone on the case. And this has got real SummerSlam vibes when Leslie Nielsen was there promoting Naked Gun. And he was doing Frank Drebin investigating. And I think that's what they were trying to go for with this as well, which, you know, was in like the mid-90s. So it's kind of its time. And what we have are Copley and Rampage approach him, but they're not the actors. They are the characters from the A-Team. They are Murdoch and B.A. Baracus.
And that's kind of a running joke throughout the night, where like the Bella twins see them right after and they say, oh, I loved you in District 9. District 9? District 13?
District 13, probably.
There were two... What's District 9?
I don't know. Is it the prequel to Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
No, there were two movies that came out very close to each other. One is a French free-running action film. and one is the South African...
About the prawns.
District 9 is the prawns, which Charlito Copley is in. And District 13 is... the French parkour movie. It's actually really good. It's actually a really good action film.
This is also a lot of WWE multicam stuff as well, where like they're in the hallway and then King gets dragged into another room where there's a different camera setup. And I at one point thought they turned off the crowd because this was getting like no reaction from the crowd. But then when they go back out into the hallway and the Bella Twins show up, the crowd react, which means that all of this just happened to complete silence from this 10,000 strong audience.
Or pre-tape.
No, I think this is live.
Yeah, I think it's live.
Yeah. I mean, and what I mean by live is either pre-tape or live. It's whether this is being played in front of the live audience. And it was just getting no reaction from them. But they do put over the Bella Twins, who fawn over MMA fighter Rampage Jackson. There was a directive, never say he's from the UFC.
And now they're all happy families.
Yeah, but, I mean, they're not in competition with them, you know, but don't mention he's from the UFC. And they're like, but you're not actors. You know, sorry, you are actors. You're not these characters. And they're like, no, we're the actors. And they do some comedy with like, oh, I've never seen. I was not in that film. However, I believe that Charlotte Copley was really good in it.
Yeah, and there's some more comedy, which might explain why there was no crowd reaction. Copley Murdoch says in the room with Lawler that they will crown who is responsible, and then he goes, "See what I did there? Because we're looking for a crown." I'm like, it doesn't even work though as crown who is responsible. No one says that.
No. Isn't that the thing what your man says in Ready to Rumble?
I'll crown you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Oliver Platt's
That's
finishing
Oliver
move.
Platt, that's it, yeah. Which you thought was King Me or something.
I think King Me's a better... I don't, in my timeline, it was King Me.
Dave Meltzer would say, these segments were so bad that if you were on the fence about going to see the movie, you'd be convinced not to after this show.
I would never judge a film on WWE's creative for promoting that film.
I have never judged a Rob Zombie album based on his guest host appearance that he has in a few months' time. Up next, it's Santino Marella versus Vladimir Kozlov. But in what type of match? Will it be a match? Will it be an arm wrestling contest? Or will it be C, a dance-off?
I wish they just had one silly one, C4 explosive match. This is a landslide of a vote. I can't believe 9% of people voted for match.
That's what Brian Alvarez right here. I want to know who the 9% of fans are that wanted to see them wrestle.
Arm wrestling got 7%, meaning maths fans, 84% of people voted for dance-off, which, to be honest, is the right choice. It's a comedy storyline. It's an odd couple thing of Santino wanting Kozlov to be his partner.
I think there's a lost story with Vladimir Kozlov that I don't think enough people talk about or really remember. He is the first ever TNA acquisition from WWE, in that Jerry Jarrett left TNA because he was really disappointed with what Jeff was doing with the promotion. Because Jerry had a very simple rule when he started TNA with Jeff Jarrett, Jerry Jarrett being Jeff's father: don't hire all the idiots that killed WCW. So Jeff, the first thing he did was bring in Vince Russo. And then down the line, brought Vince Russo back. So Jerry Jarrett was like, all right, I'm gone. And I'm taking with me what was going to be a top prospect for TNA, Vladimir Kozlov.
Wow.
And he took him straight to WWE. And that's why he got this mega push. It's like he beat Triple H.
Yeah.
And he got this huge push because he was TNA's lost prospect. And here he is doing dance comedy.
Well, this is, again, it encapsulates how WWE can't build stars.
Yeah.
Like Lord Tensai. He comes in, beats John Cena. Within 9 months' time, he is also a dancing comedy gimmick. Vince loves a dancing... We don't really see dance-offs anymore. But honestly, we were getting them in wrestling shows every couple of months.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing that we don't get dance-offs in the Triple H era of WWE. You're
but
right.
Not in TNA or AEW or... I can't remember the last one I saw in New Japan.
It was between Tetsuya Naito and it was during the breakup.
Loser leaves promotion match.
But because of his depth perception, because of his eyes.
But honestly, kids, we had bi-weekly dance-offs.
This was a common occurrence.
Arm wrestling matches.
Yeah. I mean, actually, a debate between Randy Orton and Edge would have been a viable segment in 2013 WWE.
And it would be a shoot as well. They wouldn't tell them what they're going to debate. And it's just like, let's see if this works.
Yeah. I mean, they did it on NXT.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, cut a promo on toothpaste or whatever it was. Santino, he does his comedy shtick so that he used to be a Backstreet Boy. And then he does his dance. He does the Carlton, ends with the Cobra. And Kozlov grabs the microphone and he's like, I'm a serious contender. I'm stronger and faster. And then he does, legit, some pretty good dancing.
Yeah, it's sort of some body popping, does a moonwalk. And Cole ruins it by going, vintage Kozlov.
Yeah, he does the worm, does a Cossack.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. Is that what it's called, the Cossack, when you do the little...
Cossack squats,
yeah.
Something, I think. And the crowd pop biggest for Kozlov. That's how they decide the winner. And they shake hands, which turns into a bit of a dance. Like, I can see
Ballroom
the odd
dancing.
couple romance blossoming. And then Santino's like, catch me! Like a dirty dancing move. But Kozlov bats him out the air.
Yeah.
Well, and they would go on to be a pretty decent comedy team. I always think Santino is a very good comedy presence, and at this time, it was just a bit overdone and kiddie, but he is very good. And honestly, it happens later in the year. The Santino and Kozlov segment, Tea Time with Santino, with Sheamus, is one of the best things in the whole year.
That's on one of the UK shows, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because that's why it's tea time.
Yeah, and Kozlov's wearing the little bowler hats.
Yeah, and they are all, Santino isn't. Everyone else is breaking. Or corpsing, as we say over here.
Yeah. Maybe we'll watch it.
Yeah.
Like when we get a bit closer towards it in our timeline. Yeah, I mean, it's, Dave Meltzer said, as far as a fluff segment, it was entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah, well, look, this is a comedy segment that was funny. Tick. Right? The previous segment was a comedy segment that was painfully unfunny.
Mm-hmm.
Failure.
And my next note I've written here, so many women are standing in a row. The entire Divas division.
You said you went down a couple of rabbit holes. Like, when did the tag belts lineage and stuff? I went down a rabbit hole trying to find out the name of Tiffany.
I was about to ask you, can you name all of these women? Because I've written in my notes here, I think I can name all of them except for the one that is next to Alicia Fox. And then she gets eliminated first.
Oh, Rosa Mendes.
They eliminate her first and they say her name. And I was like, it's Rosa Mendes. That's the one I didn't recognize. And I didn't recognize Tiffany because I thought she was someone else.
Yeah, I counted Jillian Hall twice. And I was like, wait. No, there's not two Jillian Halls.
So there's Eve, right? That's the Bella twins. There's Gail Kim. That's
Tiffany.
I thought I was two Kelly Kellys.
Yeah. Oh, my dream.
So there's Tiffany and Kelly Kelly. Then there's Maurice and Alicia Fox, Jillian Hall, and I didn't know who that one was.
Rosa Mendes.
And that's Lay Cool.
And Lay Cool.
So I thought I was doing pretty well, with the exception of I got two Killer Kellys. I got two Killer Kellys, and I got a missing Rosa Mendes.
Yeah. I bet like German Dan's watching this going, I knew all of the names right away.
He can sing all of their theme songs from memory.
They're actually very good theme songs.
It's because they're all Euro dance beats is why.
I was in France recently, and my God, is their music terrible.
It's garbage, isn't it?
I said to my partner, I was like, you know what? Like, if we'd lose Daft Punk, but would we lose at I think it's a net gain. We just slap tariffs on France music.
Yeah, but you miss out on Eurovision, right? Like that's all Eurovision is. It's just dance. It's just dance.
Okay, that's the one time
Europop dance beats.
It's like The Purge. One night a year, we'll have Eurovision, we'll have all that crap, and I love it, and we celebrate it, but then no more for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's fair. So either they will be having a 6-on-6 tag match, a battle royal, or champion versus champion,
which would be Eva Mendes versus Layla or Michelle McCool. They both got the win. They are co-champions.
That's right, because on SmackDown in May, Layla beat Beth for the title. However, it was a Texas Tornado 2-on-1 handicap match with Michelle McCool tagging with Layla. So because of that, they were unofficially co-champions during this reign. However, Michelle McCool is not officially recognized as the women's champion.
I always find... I thought that was a good little storyline. Yeah. But considering what the women's division was doing at the time.
And this is one of the ends for the women's championship, because it will get unified in one of our next episodes at Night of Champions.
Where we get to only enjoy that hideous Divas belt.
Yeah, that's very true, yeah.
What did you think would win?
So...
Because I thought champion versus champion would win.
I saw Gail Kim and the option of Battle Royal, and I was like, it's that show.
It's not that one, is it?
It's not.
Yeah.
But I thought Battle Royal wins because it was that show. So I kind of guessed that, but that's only because I got a different Battle Royal with Gail Kim in my mind.
Famously, if you don't know, Gail Kim was so annoyed with WWE Creative, she just eliminated herself in the opening minute of a TV Battle Royal and effectively left the company.
So she did an interview where she said that WWE instructed her to get eliminated from the match within the first minute, so she just decided to eliminate herself.
But Diva Battle Royal won with 73% of the vote.
Yeah, this does not spell like good results for this champion versus champion match that they will have in a month's time on pay-per-view.
16% of people are interested in a champion versus champion match. Yeah. But, Cole reminds us all, let's get this straight. This is a direct quote. Let's get this straight. The WWE Divas are smart, sexy, and powerful.
That's their branding. That was their branding. That's because there was some backlash to the Divas branding, and they were like, no, and they had all of them do these interviews, but like, no, it's a good thing that we've not been called women and we've been called divas, because being a diva means that I'm smart, sexy, and powerful.
We saw that, I can't remember what show it was on, but it was like a little package about, I do photo shoots in the day, being a model, and then I can come and be powerful in the evening.
And I get to go to red carpet events.
Yeah,
because that's what being a diva is.
It really feels like they are setting the women's movement back.
Yeah. And TNA at this point, well, I would say at this point, because now Hogan and Bischoff have come in and they're like, no, women's wrestling is bad, even though, like,
it was a provable draw.
Isn't this incredible about Hogan and Bischoff as apparently creative geniuses? Is that they came into a company that had actual data that showed them that the women's wrestling was outdrawing the men. And they came in and were like, no, fans don't want to see women's wrestling.
Yeah. Well, they don't respect the modern fan. Nor do they know what it is.
No. So Rosa Mendez is out first, and then Tiffany gets out, and then Kelly is out by Lay Cool. Kim eliminates Foxy and then herself, and then I've written, it's not that match then. Then the Bellas go out, and then Eve makes a pretty, she does some half decent wrestling really, and she eliminates both Lay Cool. So now it comes down to Eve, the Divas champion, against Maurice and Jillian Hall. And I wrote in here, it's like, oh, okay, well, they're the heels. This sets up Eve to make a comeback and eliminate the two baddies. Nope, she gets eliminated.
Yeah, because Jillian, I feel like, wasn't she a sort of protege, or she was obsessed with Maurice?
Well, she's not standing next to her. She's actually in the same gear as Rosa Mendez in this thing here. Point. Like, look, she's all the way over here.
So maybe it's more Jillian thought she could be friends with Maurice, the popular girl, and Maurice. Throughout, does that build a Maurice versus Eva feud?
I don't know.
Nothing. I mean, the big thing here really is Lawler's loving it.
Oh yeah, I mean, he gets to announce the results.
Lawler's come alive. He said he has made it down. He's just lost his crown. It was so serious, but I'm thankful I came back down. Specifically so he can be close to the women.
Who are smart, sexy, and powerful. We're empowering these women, as is Jerry Lawler on commentary.
Yeah. Lawler tells Michael Cole to shut up so he can enjoy the replays. I don't think it's for the wrestling. Although Gail Kim, she looked really good, obviously, because it's Gail Kim. Awesome, yeah. She hit a Hurricane Rana on Alicia Fox over the top rope to eliminate her outside. Fox probably thought she was still in the match. And the whole crowd went, oh my God, a wrestling move.
Have you not seen... We like Alicia Fox now.
No, I'm not getting on board with this.
She's in TNA, and she is now. We're in a bit of a renaissance era for Alicia Fox.
No.
She's the Nickelback of women's wrestling. No. We all like her now.
Fox is not a good wrestler. Nickelback are not a good band that I like to listen to, and I don't care. Daniel Bedingfield is still annoying. These are the things that I will not budge on.
I could not believe my... Okay, so anyway, reviews of the match. Dave Meltzer would say, Battle Royal was really sloppy. They are so wasting Maurice's talent as a wrestler. And Brian Alvarez would say, they had a horrible Battle Royal and people nearly killed each other.
Well, in terms of, like, who's got it, obviously Michelle McCool, she does have a presence about her. Everyone... Eva Mendes doesn't really have much, but Gail Kim is obviously fantastic. But Maurice has real presence, and she was one of the shining lights of this era. But, when the actual quality of the wrestling was not high at all.
Yeah. I could not believe my eyes, though, when that match ended, and I, got all my notes here, and I moved my little mouse over, I literally pick it up and I move it, and I hovered over it. The video file that we've got was only 42 minutes into the show.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's 2 hours left of this video still to watch.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe my eyes.
And you've already watched about 18 segments.
But that means it's only 20 minutes since I last checked how long I've been watching this for.
Yeah, it's time goes slower.
I couldn't believe
in 2010 WWE.
I thought my Mac was broken. So then we cut back to, and this is how I felt like the show was dragging, because Michael Cole then runs down all of the matches that we've had previously and all the options that you had and all the results that won. And I guess this is for the new viewers that are coming in on the top of the second hour.
Yeah.
The top of the start of the second hour.
I wouldn't be proud. I wouldn't tell them what happened. I'd just say John Cena's fighting a mystery opponent in the main event.
So we then have Sheamus, who is a heel, walking backstage, and he bumps into Kane. And Kane's like, I think that you are the one that put The Undertaker in a vegetative state because you took out Triple H. And Sheamus says, well, if it was me, just like with Triple H, I'd have bragged about it, fella.
Yeah, I'm here to make a name for myself. I wouldn't hide that.
Kane says, you're a liar, and I hope I see you soon. So who will Sheamus be taking on in this next match? Will it be Kane, Mark Henry, or Evan Bourne? Gee, I wonder who might win this result.
It's actually more than the dance-off share.
That's because they told you to vote for. Poor old Evan Bourne, who literally 7 days ago, they were like, John Cena's put him over. Don't put him in this position where he's going to become nearly last in this to Mark Henry.
So this is Mark Henry's pre-Hall of Pain run. He's just Mark Henry. He's just a big dude on the roster. He's been around for ages. He got 3%. Evan Bourne got 9%. And Kane got 88%.
This goes against this whole idea that they're trying to build new stars by putting people in positions where they can't succeed. So in this segment, you have got Evan Bourne, who last week not only was tagging with John Cena, he pinned Sheamus, making him the natural selection for this match. But they just do a segment with Kane where you're like, vote for Kane.
Yeah.
So then Evan Bourne gets 9% of the vote, which means that now backstage you'll be like, I guess that Evan Bourne kid's not as over as you thought, John. Hey, you really wanted us to push him. We tried, but only 9% voted for him in this match. I guess they're not that into him.
Yeah.
Brian Alvarez writes here, what a burial of Evan Bourne, and it was by the fans. They did pretty much tell you who to vote for in the prior segment. I also want to know who the 3% are who wanted to see Mark Henry wrestle. So I would say this is our first proper match of the night, because there's one like it goes through a commercial break, so it feels like it's the first proper thing.
7 minutes, you said, I think, in the rundown.
I've made that note, and then Sheamus gets chokeslammed, and he rolls outside, and he takes the count-out loss. I've then written, nope, never mind then.
Yeah, it's a foregone conclusion. There'll be Kane. This could be a decent meaty match these days. Kane versus Sheamus, but I think because we didn't like Sheamus at the time, and honestly, I know that sounds so weird because we love him so much now and have done since, I guess, 2020.
Yeah,
he was really one-dimensional. He was like a bit nothing as a heel, and he was very unlikable as a babyface. But he just didn't have that sort of... Now it feels like he wants to fight people. Back then it felt performative or overly gimmicky. This wasn't a good match at the time.
No, Dave Meltzer would say they rely on this finish far too often. Not sure what the point of this of weakening Sheamus since he's in the main event of the pay-per-view. The pay-per-view wasn't really promoted for 3 straight hours, which tells you where it's on the list of priorities.
Fatal 4-way. Why is no one buying our shows?
We then get a video of Wade Barrett, where they say he is from Manchester, and he is not. He is from Preston. That is an hour's drive from Manchester.
Oh, come on, it's the same.
You have to get the A580 to get all the way up and join the M65 to get across. It's madness.
They said Kofi Kingston was from Jamaica.
Or you can take the M6 and go past Skem and Wigan, I suppose, and then join the M65. And if you could take that route, you can stop off at Charnock Richard, which are between junctions 27 and 28, if you do want to stop off. I mean, it's only an hour's drive, but it's got 4 stars on motorway.co.uk. It's got Burger King, KFC, Starbucks, Subway, good breakfast, Krispy Kreme, Starbucks, and it's actually got a Waitrose and a WH Smith. If you want us to do that.
He done.
Either way, he won NXT.
Yeah,
I actually missed a meeting with Social Media Abby because I was looking at it. Because I had this chat on Friday, and then I was just doing all of this. I was on motorway.co.uk and I was finding out what was there, and 4-star. And I was like, is there actually a better option? And I went through the other junctions that you could have gone to, and then all of a sudden my Discord notification ccame up, and it was Abby being like, "You coming to this meeting?"
I'm in the meet. I'm in the Google Meet.
I'm in the Meet link, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I was researching service stations on the M6.
I thought this was a very good way to just gently set up Wade Barrett, because it feels like here's just a video package for a guy we're going to properly debut in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
But it actually is very effective for getting him over for what will happen in a subtle way.
And a great interview that he does afterwards as well, because, he's like, me winning was absolutely never in question. However, if you want to ask me about what will happen now that Wade Barrett is on the main roster, well, maybe you should ask me in a week's time, and we'll see what's going to happen.
It's pretty good, your impression, but it does sound a bit too Richard Ayoade for some reason.
I think you'd be a bit more nasal if you want to go to Richard Ayoade. The Barrett, I can only do it because I can only go, the Barrett Barrage.
But that's him saying that there's going to be something later on. But people say stuff like that all the time in backstage interviews.
Ask me next week. It's such a good little bit of foreshadowing.
One of the other bits he says is the whole foregone conclusion of Series 1 of NXT winner line. He says, "What, you wouldn't ask a class genius why he won the class test." Something like that. And you're like, that is such... I can see... that's a Vince thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really annoying when the old class boffin wins the class test. Because he's only got a frame of reference from the 40s and 50s. Yeah. I'm really glad that the interviewers said the backstage interviewer's name, because I don't know how I would have found it. Savannah,
yeah. This is her first week on the job, yeah. I don't think it lasts for long either. But maybe it does. Oh, man. Hopefully we can check in with the A-team and see what they're up to. Thankfully, we do, because I'd actually forgotten that they were a partnership on screen. I know that Ted was doing the $1 million thing, but I forgot they actually gave him Virgil as well. But Ted DiBiase, not Junior, is with Virgil, and they're having a chat. And the A-team lads walk in looking for the crown. Virgil and B.A. Baracus go face to face. And then in walks IRS.
Yeah.
Is it his dad, like Ted DiBiase's dad's tag team partner, IRS, walks in full gimmick, and he says, "Hey, Lawler owed back taxes on this crown, so it belongs to me now, because I am IRS."
Yeah, and then Copley says that they're the FBI, you need to give it back now. And Ted DiBiase says, "No, you're not the FBI."
Actually, I spoke to some recently and took off my phone.
Are you? Runs away. You're the A-team. And then Ted DiBiase releases a gas canister, and the bad guys put on gas masks, and the A-team pass out. It was like a bad SNL sketch where they don't know the punchline.
Or have one.
Yes. Yeah. It's weird because this is post-Legacy. You had Randy Orton, you had Cody Rhodes, and you had Ted DiBiase Jr. as that faction. And WWE went, Ted DiBiase is the future.
Well, they gave him the movie.
They gave him the movie. They gave him...
$1 million gimmick.
$1 million gimmick.
They pair him with Maurice, I think, a little bit down the line. Actually, that might come before this. And yeah, it's... I mean, Dave Meltzer writes here, just horrible acting and writing here. I can't explain how bad this was. I can't explain how bad this show was at this point. It was like the worst of WCW.
Yes. I will say, Copley, though, he's given it his all.
He is trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's trying harder than Virgil is.
Ted DiBiase doesn't seem to be into this.
Well, it's because he should be world champion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Truth and The Miz walk backstage because they're going to have a tag team match where you get to pick their partners. So will Truth be teaming with Christian, MVP, or John Morrison, all in AEW now?
Oh, wow. Good point.
Or, and Miz will be teaming with either Dolph Ziggler, William Regal, or Zack Ryder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, 3 people who left WWE. William Regal has, of course, come back, but Ziggler is in TNA, and Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder, is everywhere else.
And is actually used now that Cody's gone back to WWE. Matt Cardona is used as the blueprint for what you can do when you get released by WWE. Now, when they had the releases over the weekend, like Sean Ross Sapp was like, you've got 2 options ahead of you. You can either go by, and just sort of skate by for a little bit and get a few bookings, or you can be Matt Cardona. And King, who then is at commentary, does not talk about the backstage segment that just happened that involves his crown.
Surely he should be running back to
help them.
It's annoying because you don't know. WWE never made clear what everyone else can see. and what is only for the audience.
Yeah.
Because
Warrior in the mirror.
Yeah, the commentators are characters. All the wrestlers are characters. And the characters, just for the sake of badly thought out drama, can't know what other characters are doing in other scenes.
Yeah.
But we as the audience can see all scenes. And they would have played that backstage bit in the locker room on the Tron for the live audience.
Correct.
So Lawler just it's like, I'm figuring out how to use my computer.
I think Jerry Lawler forgot that he did the segment earlier.
Well,
he's not involved in a segment later on, so he doesn't need to remember it now.
The women came out.
And he came out.
It's like, so what else can you use this laptop for?
What else is on this internet that you talk about?
Nude. Celebrity name nude.
So yeah, John Morrison wins the poll for R-Truth. He gets 54% of the vote. Christian gets 29 and MVP gets 17. If R-Truth came out on Raw next week, it would be the same entrance and he'd look the same.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. King votes and literally says it doesn't matter who he picks. That is a direct quote. He said, and he's got all three options. He has got Ziggler, Regal, and Ryder. He's like, look, I'm going to vote here. It doesn't matter who I pick. It doesn't matter who I pick. That is not a ringing endorsement of this gimmick.
There's so much crazy about this because Miz comes out next and he's going to main event WrestleMania in 9 months' time.
I've written here, if Miz came out on SmackDown next week, he'd have the same entrance and do the same promo.
So Zack Ryder won here over Dolph Ziggler. Now, neither man has fully caught on yet, being a couple of years, but February 2011 was the debut of Z Long Island True Story, which was the start of Zack's groundswell of support, and that will really pick up later on in that year. But he wins here over William Regal. William Regal comes last.
Yeah.
The disrespect. But I'm serious, like even in 2010.
I was surprised that Zack Ryder won here because you're right, this is quite a few months away before he actually gets over. I actually went back and I watched the first episode of Z True Long Island Story, and I'm amazed that we watched it. In all honesty, because it's only 3 minutes, but I watched on double speed and it still felt long. He comes out to absolute crickets, and the reason why we're having this match is because to promote the new season of NXT that's starting, because a lot of them are coaches on the show. And rather than commentate on the match, he again runs down the results of the previous matches, and then Miz pins Morrison.
Yeah, he's like, they don't talk about the match at all. He starts saying it's NXT Season 2 tomorrow. It's Viewer's Choice tonight. The A-Team are here. Oh, we had the Divas earlier. People voted for the dance-off. That was funny. And I've written here, how about my viewer's choice for Cole is to shut the F up? Haha, I was getting annoyed, I think. But yeah, Morrison gets the hot tag, near fall on Miz, but then Miz just hits a skull-crushing finale to win. Yeah,
Brian Alvarez writes here, sucks to be Morrison, pinned clean as a sheep by The Miz when he was the guy that was voted in for by the fans.
I feel like when Miz won, there was a sound from the crowd that was like, yeah. It wasn't, yeah, which was most of the reactions to like the dance-off and things like that. Because Miz, main eventing and retaining the title at WrestleMania was too far. But we were all starting to get behind him because he was a really, really good, fresh, mid-card heel.
Yeah. Money in the Bank, it's actually, and he gets the partnership with Alex Riley.
Yeah.
It actually was not bad. Not WWE champion, main eventing WrestleMania and winning, but it was not bad.
But I think we all enjoyed a Miz segment back in the day. So I think that low voice pop when he won was an indicator of the stuff that, on that WrestleMania 27 weekend, like us marks were going crazy for the Miz.
I don't think we were on that show itself.
Not on the show itself, no, but in the build.
I think even in the build, I think people are kind of... Because he's not the main focus. But
he does a press conference and everyone was like, yeah, miss.
No, I think you've misremembered this. I think that going into WrestleMania 27, which we just reviewed, is all about The Rock and John Cena. And The Miz is literally the third wheel of the main event that he is in and is going to win. Edge talks to Bret Hart backstage, and then Kane approaches Bret and starts talking about The Undertaker, and Bret has clearly no idea what Kane is talking about because he's not watching the other show. And then I've written here, I was like, wow, when you think about it, these two characters did not cross paths when they were in the same company at the same time, because like Kane comes in like the month before Bret leaves. On the show where Bret does leave, it's Kane versus Mankind.
Yeah, wow.
And then Bret's gone. But I suppose, he would have faced him when he was Isaac Yankem. Did you know, last Monday, Raw was, once again, the #1 show on all of cable television?
Yeah, so this is a did you know fact. They don't do these anymore.
They don't.
We didn't get WWE just putting really contrived stats to make themselves look good.
Did you know Raw was in the top 10 most watched shows on Netflix? Don't ask which number.
I've written down the same thing. The once again is so smug.
It does say Raw was, once again, Yeah. Up next, it's Edge versus Randy Orton in, as we'd already established earlier, Edge has to have his arm tied behind his back because Randy Orton has his arm in a sling, is legit injured.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, and there's a question whether he's going to be able to make it to Fatal 4-Way.
I just assumed it was a work.
Which is why they're doing it. Is like, why are they putting him in a match when he needs to be resting before the pay-per-view? I thought it was a work as well until reading it, and they were like, no, he actually is like dealing with a bit of an arm injury. It's not a terrible arm injury, but certainly not one you should be working with. They recap the previous week's attack, which obviously we know was hilarious. Orton goes for the RKO early, but uses his right arm, so he struggles to do it with the left arm. He can't really do it. Then Edge breaks free of the sling, and the referee calls the match off. And I've written in all caps, this show is terrible.
Yeah, it's really bad. I think you probably heard me earlier. I asked a wrestler person, if you're going to work a one-armed match, what arm makes the most sense to tape up? Like, should you, as two people having a dance partner, should you both tape, for instance, the right arm, so you've both got the left arm, or do you want to alternate? Or mirror rather. So I'll have my right arm and you'll have your left arm.
Yeah,
because that's what happens here. Randy Orton's got his right arm strapped like in a sling, and Edge has his left arm put in a sling, even though he's right-handed. And the rest of the person said, well, you would probably put both on the right arm because you work the left when you do the sort of grapples and stuff. They do the right and left arm.
I mean, it goes 1 minute and 20 seconds. I don't think.
I don't think they needed to figure it out.
It's kind of all about the post-match angle, which I would, I agree with Meltzer here. Like basically, what happens is that Edge beats him up around ringside and hits him with a chair in the injured shoulder and hits him again. But there's not a lot of heat for this, considering that they are again in the main event of Fatal 4-Way for the WWE Championship. And like they're in this feud together, it doesn't really feel like it's got a lot of heat about it.
Well, Randy Orton's meant to be a babyface here, which is not his natural role at this time.
Yeah.
And the crowd do pop for him when he comes out, but not enough,
Yeah, I agree. Dave Meltzer would say, this whole thing had such little heat, it was scary. They also made a big mistake replaying the angle from the week prior with the door. The first time they showed it, I didn't really notice how light and how it couldn't hurt a 2-year-old with a bad shoulder, as it should be. But with the replay, you actually pay attention and it only made it look bad. Orton is still scheduled as of the weekend for the pay-per-view. I guess they are doing this as a backstory just in case, but they already did the backstory last week. Maybe they saw how bad the door shot was and figured they needed to do it again.
Well, then why keep showing the door shot?
And Brian Alvarez would write, "Stop taking bumps, you idiots!" Edge immediately ripped the deal off his arm and got DQ'd. He set up for the spear, but Orton booted him in the face and then gave him another boot and sent him outside. He went after him, but Edge whacked him with a chair to the shoulder, then gave him a second chair shot to the shoulder as Orton laid on the ground. It was done safely, much safer than taking a bump, at least. And then we get Cole recapping the results.
Oh my God. And another recap of Edge versus Orton that we'd just seen.
Yep. including the Divas Battle Royal. And so, I was like, it's like they're short on time with this show being 3 hours. And then we get, this is one of my favorite moments as well, because they're hyping up what the main event of the show is, which is John Cena versus your choice. But that poll's not open at the moment. So Michael Cole, we have to say, don't vote now. Don't go to the website now, because you can't. Like, it's not there. You can't. Don't vote on this one now, because we've got another match coming up. We can't do 2 polls at the same time. So don't vote on this one now.
Could they not? Was that a limitation?
Yeah, you could only do 1 poll at a time. They are so they're like, don't vote on this one. You can't vote on this one yet, but you will get your choice ready, because you will get to pick in a bit. Instead, Cena is backstage chatting with Evan Bourne and puts him over. And Savannah walks up. He's like, how do you feel? And John cuts his usual, I would argue, bland promo. How do I feel? I think the way the WWE audience treats me, regardless of how the fans feel about me, I know that they are honest.
What is his accent?
It's not Boston.
Yeah. And it feels quite pronounced here. Way more than it does these days, or in like sort of how it would be in the next couple of years. Yeah. Like even in the Rock feud that we just covered, which is 9 months away.
Yeah. He's got a really weird, like, imagine the way he moves. He's got a weird cadence to how he talks.
Yeah.
But only when he's doing promos. If you actually speak to him, because I interviewed him for Ferdinand? Was that what the film was called?
Fernando,
where he's a bull.
Yeah, me and Luke only interviewed John Cena for kids movies. Because yours was that and mine was Hot Kids.
Hot Kids?
Yeah, do you remember? We've done this before.
No. Because I thought it was Bumblebee that you interviewed him for.
No, it was Hot Kids. I won't look up the actual name of that movie. I think it's funnier for us to just think it's about these kids that became firefighters.
Yeah, these kids become firefighters, and the film's called Hot Kids.
It's hot, man.
Because the fires are hot.
We didn't screen test the name. We released it by accident without that part. Hot Kids.
And then we come back to Murdoch from the A-Team gets woken up by Mean Gene Okerlund.
Yeah, so Copley, Shalito Copley?
Shalito.
He was gassed last time we saw him. He wakes up in the locker room.
was dragged away.
Yeah, and Mean Gene's there, which with a voice I could swim in.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives him a pep talk. He says, look, you've got a chance to outshine the original. I wish I had that chance. Have you seen the clown that's replaced me? And Josh Matthews is right next to him. He goes, me, Gene, I'm right here. Which is quite funny, actually.
It's really, really funny. An absolute burial of poor Josh Matthews.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, yeah.
Working for AEW now. But it is genuinely hilarious.
So one thing I find myself doing a fair bit, it's sort of added to my rotation of just little videos that make me happy, is Mean Gene corpsing. Mean Gene corpsing in interviews. Oh, yeah. It's so good.
He is amazing. Mm-hmm. He should be the template for every single backstage interviewer.
Him and Borash.
Yeah, Borash. And
they are the Mount Rushmore of interviewers.
Who's your fourth then? Shane Douglas. Ooh.
Can someone make that? Can someone Photoshop
the Mount Rushmore of backstage interviewers? And it's Mean Gene Okerlund, Jerry Borash, Renee, and the franchise Shane Douglas.
Yes, please. And we'll start posting that every chance we can get, and just like rage bait the internet. Name a more iconic four. I dare you. Because a lot of people will be like, "What?
What?
When was Shane Douglas a backstage interviewer? Oh, well, there was this like
short. It's before he was with the Naturals." Anyway, coming up next is Drew McIntyre.
Oh, sorry, there was a key part of that little skit.
Oh, sorry, yeah, go on.
Mean Gene's giving him the pep talk, and he says something about USA, and Copley goes, USA.
You need to have a dream, yeah.
And that does set up the eventual payoff.
Yes.
If you'd call it that.
I would.
Okay.
I think the reveal of who is the mastermind of all of this to be actually quite inspired. But up next, it is Drew McIntyre. You're right there.
Yeah, just made me laugh a lot.
And he's going to be taking on his next opponent, which is either Yoshitatsu, Goldust, or a mystery man.
Who could it be?
You got to skip a lot. We've covered a lot of this show. There's Edge and Randy Orton. There's John Cena doing his promo. Here comes Drew McIntyre.
Doesn't Drew look young there?
Yeah.
So
here we go.
The bizarre one, Goldust.
And a mystery man.
And this mystery opponent.
You may as well have gone, it's me, Matt Hardy.
Well, I didn't actually clock that it was Matt Hardy. I just thought it was... I thought Rob Van Dam.
Yeah, Yoshi gets 4% of the vote, Goldust gets 8%, and the mystery man gets 88% of the vote. A lovely little DeLorean right there.
I think Matt Hardy would get less. if they just said it's Matt Hardy.
In fairness, they are feuding on TV, so I think if they'd have put Matt Hardy on there, he probably would have won the poll.
I'm not saying I think he would have won, but I think he would have got 60% of the vote.
He was like, Goldust.
I think I'm clicking on a video that has mystery superstar rather than Matt Hardy.
It's Matt Hardy, and they say like, hey, they tricked Drew McIntyre because Teddy Long helped set this up, and Drew's like, they're so mad about this, and Matt walks out, he's like, we got him, and Drew's trying to get this stopped because he said that Matt Hardy has been suspended, and Teddy's like, well, hold on a minute, player. He's only been suspended from SmackDown, but this is Monday Night Raw, so then this match is going to happen right now. And then Matt just wins.
Yeah, really quickly.
Yeah. He just
clean twist of fate.
Just wins.
And then he keeps trying to cause a head injury to Drew, because Drew was trying to cause head trauma to Matt earlier in their feud. And he rips out some of Drew's hair and eats it. Felt a bit broken.
Yeah.
6 years before that was an actual gimmick.
I mean, I would say as well that he actually was the biggest babyface on this show because he threw Drew McIntyre over the desk and it cut off Michael Cole's commentary for a bit. So a bit of a rare win on this show so far. Dave Meltzer would say the crowd was more into this match than any wrestling so far, which isn't saying much. Brian Alvarez would say they brawled all over the ringside area, then Matt threw him into the ring, hit the twist of fate, and pinned him clean. Man, it effing sucks to be Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, how soon into his Chosen One run is this? Ooh, was it 09 that he sort of was introduced?
Because he feels like he's in Chosen mode gimmick now. He's coming out to let's say goodbye.
So he, McIntyre on the main roster, August 09. 1 month after that was when he received a push from WWE chairman Mr. McMahon, who called him a future world champion and gave him the nickname The Chosen One.
And like Drew McIntyre is such a sexy bastard. He's so he's such a handsome guy, and he's got this big barrel chest on him, and he's got this gruff Scottish accent, and he gets real mad at people. And here he comes out, like, hello, I'm Drew McIntyre, like this clean-shaven, skinny as a rag.
Yeah.
I am the Chosen One, and I'm really annoyed that Matt Hardy has won this match.
So he's 39 now, it says. So he would have been 24?
Yeah.
Oh my God. The youngest person they have on the main roster right now is probably Bron Breakker.
Yeah, probably.
Isn't he like 58? That's crazy. So look, they were they knew they had to make new stars.
Yeah.
Sheamus, Swagger, Drew McIntyre.
Sheamus is a former WWE champion at this point.
Yeah, and they're all like early 20s. That's why they're still around now and they're still going.
Mm-hmm. They know that people like Edge is going to be retiring in 2 years. Rey Mysterio's only got 2 years left. He won't be wrestling in 2025.
But yeah, this is they just didn't know how to A, push them, or B, they were pushing the wrong people.
Yeah. Backstage, B.A. Baracus is with Ted, Virgil, and IRS, and they tell him, we're not going to fly anywhere. We're going to the ring. And here's where we get the big payoff. So B.A. Baracus is handcuffed to the ring, and Ted DiBiase says that the reason why he stole the crown and gave it to IRS is because everybody has a price, and the person who wanted B.A. Baracus is going to come out and get him now.
Yeah, because that person paid Ted to do all of this.
So why is the crown there then? Because surely IRS is getting the crown. So like the person
I guess it was a trap.
Oh.
I guess the crown was a trap.
Right.
To get B.A. Baracus.
So why did IRS need the back taxes on it then?
Maybe that was just something IRS said in the moment.
Maybe.
To throw them off the scent to set up a reveal.
And it is a brilliant reveal. Because it's Rowdy Roddy Piper who comes out and thinks he's Mr. T.
Well, he doesn't think he's Mr. T because he said, like, I beat the original Mr. T. I silenced the original Mr. T. And now I'm going to
I'm not going to go see your new movie.
Yeah. And now the A-Team has a movie. When I silenced Mr. T back then.
I thought he was Mr. T, which is why I thought it was a much funnier gag.
Maybe he did. I saw it as intergenerational hate. Where Rowdy Roddy Piper just wants to extinguish the whole B.A. Baracus line.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
But it's still, it's a rare payoff in this era of WWE that does make a lot of sense. And it actually outsmarts you. You go, you know what? That's actually a fun reveal if you've got
exactly
Mr. T.
Yeah, because if you don't know, Roddy Piper was in the main event of the first WrestleMania against Mr. T. It was Mr. T and Hulk Hogan versus Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff. And then in WrestleMania 2, it's Piper versus Mr. T. So this actually does, when Piper comes out, there's a genuine moment of like, that's a really smart reveal to tie into the release of the A-Team.
And it's always a pleasure to see Hot Rod just be crazy.
He is full Hot Rod mode in all of this as well. He does not give a fig about promoting this movie. He is just off. He's off on his own little world, and it's awesome. And then, and I actually didn't mention this earlier, one of my big annoyances, they don't use the A-Team theme. They use this knockoff Jim Johnston version of the A-Team theme. You're sponsored by the movie. Surely you can get the song rights to the film and not have to pay for it. But they come out on a little tank with the American Dream Dusty Rhodes.
Oh, was it a tank? Are you doing the are you doing the DX?
Yeah, I absolutely have, yeah.
It's a Jeep.
Yeah, it's a Jeep. He comes out in a Jeep, and BA fights free of the handcuffs, and he takes down DiBiase. We get a bionic elbow to IRS, and then BA takes out Virgil, and Gene interviews them after the match. And Murdoch says that it was you saying dream that made me think of the American Dream. He lives in Miami. I can give him a call and he can come on over. And Dusty's like, baby, I love it when a plan comes together. And the crown.
It's a groovy movie.
It's a groovy movie. You gotta go see it this coming Friday, Daddy. And the crown is never mentioned again.
Nope. Jerry's right there.
He's right there.
Jerry's right there. And they have the crown in the ring. Rampage just picks it up and just like, oh, look.
Sorry, is this what you're after?
And it's legends. It's legends beating up legends.
Yeah.
Jerry's a legend. He started the whole thing.
He's the instigator of all of this.
The MacGuffin is his crown. Why isn't he involved in this?
Yeah. I don't know. It's absolutely madness.
Yeah.
Dave Meltzer would say, it looked really hokey and the crowd didn't react to it at all, even less than most celebrities who get physical, although this show was really bad up until this point.
Yeah, at least it kind of made a bit of fun sense. And it just put me in a bit of a fun, silly mood, because then we're going to go into the break. And yes, we've got like the big John Cena CM Punk match spoiler coming up next, which leads into the big Nexus angle. So everyone's getting a bit delirious that the show's nearly over. And Jerry Lawler just starts screaming that he's going to vote. And Cole just starts yelling and he gets cut off. And for whatever reason, it really made me laugh.
Next, live on Monday Night Raw. I just voted. Have you? No, you haven't let me all night.
No, you haven't let me all night. We've only got one laptop between us. I don't know how to get rid of cookies.
Cole has just done, here's my throw to the break, and that's all we got time for. And then Lawler's like, I just voted. Like he's been trying to make it work for 2 hours.
It's also a lie. Because when we come back from the break, he's voting on this match.
He votes for Ray, and the computer freezes.
It's even funnier than that, actually. Oh, yeah, by the way, Mark Feuerstein is the host next week. I've written in my notes here. Better Google if he's a bad un. Nope, he was in Knucklehead with The Big Show, and Royal Pains ran for 104 episodes, and he was in all of them. So there you go. We get to the voting bit here, and, Jerry's going to vote. This is where he goes like, oh, yeah, I've got my crown back, by the way. He goes...
That was 2 hours of TV time.
Here we go.
Well, I feel empowered, so here I go.
I feel empowered, like the Divas.
See a great match between Rey Mysterio and John. I believe if that happens, it would be the first time ever on Monday Night Raw. Although we can't be a swagger, seeing Punk would be great as well. Anyhow, my computer's stuck. Well, it's frozen up.
Wait for it.
And you have no computer savvy, so I can't figure out. You're gonna know what to do. Give me that hammer over there. You want the hammer? Anyway, folks, standing by, Josh Matthews in the locker room area. He voted.
I think that was a working clip. I don't think the screen fixed itself. I think we're going to cut to a wide, Jerry. Just say it worked. It's the best punch in the business.
Yes,
it worked.
It worked. And again, this is then telling you, vote for Rey Mysterio. It would be a first time ever match on Monday Night Raw. Vote for Rey Mysterio. We want the angle to work at the end. Vote for Rey Mysterio. So Michael Cole runs down the results and the votes. And then Rey, in a backstage interview, calls himself the top dog of SmackDown while he is standing next to the World Heavyweight Champion, who is actually the top dog of SmackDown.
Yeah, they're doing like the player select stage and again.
Jack says it will be champion versus champion, but Punk says that all these questions are stupid, and he said that he can make Cena a better person if he joins his group, the Straight Edge Society. It's the Straight Edge Society Punk. It's also Masked Punk, because he lost their hair versus mask match to Rey Mysterio.
So cool. And he's there with Luke Gallows and Serena Deeb as well.
Yep. So the results come in, and Punk wins with 45% of the votes, while Rey gets 32% of the vote, and the World Heavyweight Champion, Jack Swagger, gets 23%. Not a ringing endorsement of Jack Swagger or the World Heavyweight Championship.
It's not a ringing endorsement of any of them.
And this is why. I'm not a big Nostradamus of professional wrestling, but when they introduced a secondary World Heavyweight Championship, I did say it will not be treated the same as the WWE Championship. And I don't need to be a genius to know that. I just need to look at history.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Maybe they'll treat it well again when someone they care about is the champion.
So Punk wins, and Cole says that Cena is not going to join Punk because he's got his newest gimmick, and you can tell that they're getting it over because Jerry Lawler says it 5 times during the match. He has the C Nation behind him.
Is this a new thing?
This
then?
is a brand. Well, I'm guessing
said that in the promo backstage as well.
It's a brand new thing. They're trying to get it over. The C Nation. That is his loyal fans.
I'm not one of them.
I will get credit. We're talking a lot about Cena and the split reactions. He is over as a babyface in Miami. They're massively into him, although they then chant, "You can't wrestle." And I'm guessing that is directed at him and not CM Punk.
Yes. Yeah,
I would guess so. Gallows trips Cena for the heat, and they keep talking about the C Nation. And then Cena starts his comeback. It's the best wrestling of the night.
They also talk on commentary about Punk's hairy chest. They do a lengthy tangent on that. Just again, this is John Cena and CM Punk in the ring in the main event of Raw, and Lawler's like, "Wow, Punk's not shaved that chest because he hasn't. He's got like a And they talk about how Deeb and Luke Gallows, they had to shave their heads to join the Straight Edge Society
because he's a hypocrite. Yeah. I remember quite vividly Brian Alvarez. At any point, if a wrestler started to grow chest hair, he's like, "They're turning heel." That's the sign, because Punk did it as well. Punk was a babyface, started growing out the chest hair, and right now I was like, he's going to turn heel. That's what heels do. Heels don't shave their chests. It's a heel move to have a hairy chest.
I've had a hairy chest since the age of 13.
Heel.
Also, I did some digging because I was like, well, this is before Money in the Bank 2011. Is this their first match? Their first singles match? In WWE, they had 2 singles matches in November and December.
No way.
The previous year, which was like the Superstar of the Year semi-final.
Right.
So just a throwaway thing. But yeah, this is kind of the start of the Cena Punk history.
Which is going to be a huge thing come next year when we get to Money in the Bank. I honestly would have thought they'd been doing this for ages. Because Punk has always said, I remember when he did the Art of Wrestling, we don't talk about that shit, but when he did the Art of Wrestling, and he was like, I loved working with John Cena because you know exactly where you need to be. He's so safe to work with. I love working with John. And I remember actually being a little bit disappointed because I was so anti-Cena. I didn't want my guy Punk being like, no, I think he's a good wrestler. Because I'm like, no, agree with me, Phil. But here, he gets in the ring with him, and I'm like, it feels like they've been wrestling each other forever.
They just got natural chemistry together.
It's amazing how it works. But then we get the big angle, because out onto the stage walks Wade Barrett.
Cena's in his 5 moves of doom. He's about to do the 5-knuckle shuffle.
Yeah. And he's got on him, Wade that is, a black armband that's got a yellow square on it with an N. And then I actually genuinely, I ragged on Michael Cole all night, but he has got one of my favorite calls of this, which is when it's like, oh, hey, that's Wade Barrett from the winner of NXT Season 1. And then they show Michael Tarver, and they're like, whoa, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden it cuts to this wide, and Michael Cole, and it's pretty much the last thing he says is, they're all over the place! And it's pretty much the last thing that commentary say for this entire segment, which goes on for a way longer than you remember.
Yeah. Yeah, because they keep, even after they ripped everything up and left, they hold for about 4 minutes on the aftermath, which is the bodies around the ring, Cena getting put on a stretcher, the destruction of the table. But yeah, from the very first moment, a wrestler walking out onto the entrance ramp as a wrestler in the ring is about to hit their finishing move, that's not reinventing the wheel. But the way Cena reacts to Wade being on the ramp doesn't make it feel like the standard, oh, I'm John Cena. What? There's someone on the ramp. It's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And Wade walks down further, and he's just like, and he drops Punk from his shoulders, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And it feels, the way it's done, it doesn't feel like this is a wrestling storyline. This feels like the show has gone off script, and that's why it's so effective.
Yeah, it's brilliant. This is the start of it.
This is not good for John, no matter what here. Not at all. Wade Barrett is...
Like, John just looks like something's gone wrong.
Yeah, and then that is just...
And it's that they're beating up the Straight Edge Society, Gallows and Serena and Punk.
We'll say the absolute state of Darren Young. Absolute state of him.
Well, everyone used to joke that he was Black John Cena.
Because he looks just like him. But the state of his hair, you were never going to make it on the main roster, mates. You did have to go to New Japan and reinvent yourself. It's such a good angle. It's absolutely incredible. They surround the ring. Atunga punches out the referee. Cena goes after Barrett, but it's 8-on-1. Ryback boots Striker. They attack Jerry the King Lawler. They attack, and then this is when Michael Cole just bails, and that's the end of his commentary. There was so much online speculation that he's going to be a part of this.
That Michael Cole was.
Because he ran away. And there's a storyline
He's like the Eric Bischoff.
There's a storyline reason why Michael Cole didn't get touched during all of this.
Oh.
I mean, it doesn't bail into anything. It's just that Cole bailed. Because he treated this like a real thing. There's just these guys are just like, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
You see trouble, you run the other way.
Right now, it's, ever since this, it's quite normal for WWE to go into this gear. Like, oh no, I know the rest of the show was wrestling, but this is real. But actually, it's a work shoot. You didn't get this back then. Look how messy the beatdown of Cena is.
Scrappy, isn't it? Yeah.
It's like Cena keeps trying to get up. They're holding the legs down. I mean, Heath's punches aren't great there, but then they just pull him down again. Like, that doesn't look like a normal beatdown. People are bundling on each other. But the big bit. If I just go forward, which way is forward? Let's see, he's falling down. Is here. Cena's down.
That's it. That's the
it's
Matt
when
Striker.
they take out Matt Striker.
It's genuinely, that's the moment.
Listen to that. Like, because before then, the crowd are like, Yeah.
Beat down.
This is a fun wrestling angle, and then.
And because it's barely on shot as well, like, because if you're in the building and you can't see everything, but just like I love the way that that's framed, and it does feel, again, this is not a scripted moment, because like if this was a scripted moment, you'd have got a better shot of that.
If it was Kevin Dunn, it'll be a crash zoom in on that. It'll be loads of cuts, but they restrain themselves, and that's part. When they do something so well like this at this time, it's amazing, but it's also incredibly frustrating, because I'm like, you know how to do it.
Yeah, you always had the tools and the talent.
You know that your camera style is obnoxious, and a more real way to sort of film things is this way. Yet you do not film it like a sport. You film it like an episode of 24 in the back of a van.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's like, so you can hear like 5 guys chanting NXT, which is amazing. That will become one of the most over chants like in 2015. And then they start beating up security, and there's Justin Roberts right there.
Yes.
Because they tear up the ring, and this is what we got here is the network cut of the show.
Is this, and it's been cut round.
So yeah, when we get to it, they cut to a wide. So yeah, there's Justin Roberts.
They've taken his top off.
There you go. He gets the tie, and then they cut to a wide, but you can see him down there doing it.
Oh, yeah. Brian is choking Justin Roberts with his tie.
Thankfully, I have got.
Yeah,
I've got the original broadcast rip of this as well, so we can see the moment in full when. Where are we? Original broadcast. Look at this in terrible quality as well.
Oh god, did you film it off the TV?
There he goes. Grabs Justin Roberts
And
by
that's
the
when
tie.
they'd cut.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember this shot. Roberts' selling is pretty good, and that's it. That got him fired.
We'll come on to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you know, all the fallout and everything from that. But like Barrett launches a chair, Tarver starts tearing up the maps, they undo the ropes. I think like Tarver, this is where I was like, he's getting so much shine in all of this. Like he's proper making himself feel like a presence in all of this. Atunga lays out Cena. Slater throws Cena into a Darren Young lariat. Slater does the same. I've got an interview with Heath Slater where it's like, John Cena said, "What do you want to all do?" And he went out to each of them, was like, "What do you want to do?" And they were so nervous. They were like, "I don't really have a finish. A lariat?"
How do they not have a finish?
It's why 5 of them do lariats. Just like, I don't know, a lariat?
I haven't got that part on the character creation stage. Can I go back to your original script?
Yes.
I was going to play a spot with Brian Danielson.
Mm-hmm.
You keep talking. I've got to find it.
I mean, we get actually Brian Danielson and CM Punk going at it for a little bit. A little bit of Ring of Honor right there. Because I love the bit when Punk dives in to try and attack these guys, and they just start battering up him here as well. Which is why, again, I think it's good that Punk won the poll. Because it does make it feel like it's not just beating up the two top baby faces the kids like.
You keep talking. Sorry, I want to find this bit.
So
it's Danielson's kick.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one I was just about to get to, because Skip lariat Cena and Slater, and there's another very key moment to this, which I will want to raise as well, which is when Slater grabs the ring ropes.
Oh, okay. Here.
Yeah, I think it's just here actually. Yeah, so Slater is really excited, right?
The ring ropes have been taken down,
and he goes to get John, and it cuts away, and he stops doing it. In that moment, John tells him, "No choking." Don't choke me. No choking. And so Slater stops doing it, and he was like, I didn't get in trouble, but Brian does.
What a near miss.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Well, thanks, John.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we get this moment. This is awesome.
Well, Daniel Bryan is going for his patented kick to the head.
Yeah.
Usually does the yes kicks.
Yeah.
Stolen from The Miz. But Michael Tarver is so excited, he gets in the way of the spot.
I do like him yelling, "You are not better than me." It feels like Danielson gets it and he spits. That also gets him in trouble. Hell away, Tarver.
I've got to do it again now.
I've got to do it again now. Poor old Michael Tarver. He's too excited. Too excitable. Danielson yells at Cena, "You're not better than me," spits at him, crowd chant, "You are losers." Wasteland to John Cena, a move that not many people like.
What, the forward fireman's carry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the amazing and beautiful 450 by Justin Gabriel. A hell of an angle this is. And they end on medics checking on John Cena. There's a brilliant moment as well. Actually, I want to see if I can find this. I haven't got the timestamp for it, but it's after they all leave. And it's around ringside. I wonder if it's here.
It feels like the Wyatt 6 angle, you know, when it's just like loads of bodies. So yeah, this goes on for ages, the aftermath.
Yeah.
And there's no commentary.
It's all, yeah.
But it feels like something genuinely went wrong.
The murmuring of the crowd is so interesting.
Doesn't this look like the one shot of the Wyatts, though?
Here it is. Check out this little kid here. Oh, I went too far. Go back.
Mr. King.
This little kid's like, he's so concerned. It's like, Mr. King.
Well, they're all checking on Cena. There's loads of officials and medics in the ring, but there's no one
checking on Jerry
or Matt Striker.
He's a legend, and this poor kid's like, Mr. King.
Well, we do get this a lot.
Like, Fievel, Papa.
We get this a lot. The crossfade. They're crossfading between shots.
Yeah.
Why?
It's dramatic.
Is it?
Yeah, it's either dramatic and, if there's a roaring fire, sexy.
Or an illusion that to symbolize that time has passed.
I think it's for drama, is to crossfade between these things, because something has gone wrong here, and John Cena,
something has gone wrong,
hero,
so we're crossfading.
Yeah, like, this is serious. Your hero, John Cena, has been decimated 8-on-1. Show him some respect.
With crossfades?
Yeah, with crossfades.
Look, I just put over how restrained the production was of this segment. Crossfades? What is this, Alien 3?
We need to cover up these cuts somehow. I just want to quickly establish as well, 2:11:51. It's like one of the last shots. Oh, yeah, also, look at this concerned woman here.
Well, if this was done a few years later, there would be so many cutaways to people in the crowd. But this is pre-Undertaker guy. This is before the Miz gal.
Yeah.
That hadn't become such a trope of WWE back then.
But, you know, in case you were wondering, where did Matt Striker learn to sell? From the John Cena school. Lay as still as you possibly can. Do not move.
I saw him moving earlier, though.
Did you?
He's moved into a different place. Yeah, I was really concerned that they were going to stretch a Cena halfway up and then he'd get up and walk out on his own feet.
Yeah, I thought that.
But credit to him, he didn't. He just did the little thumbs up, which, you know, he shouldn't have, really.
So yeah, I've got quite a lot of interviews from guys about like, you know, this angle of stuff. This is what Heath Slater had to say about this in an interview.
Fans, you know, but it's like, don't do that. He was like, but I want you to tear the ring apart. He was like, I want you to beat up all the announcers. If security runs down, if I send them, take them out. You know, he was like, just destroy as much as you can. And we're just like, is this happening? Like, we're all like, oh, okay, all right, shit. And it's like that, like we wanting to say stuff, but we're holding it back, and we're just like wanting to ask all these questions, but he's just all like, I just want it to be like a bomb exploded in the guardrails, you know, just demolish everything. It'd be like a pack of hyenas, you know, like a wolf pack, you know, just destroying everything. So we're all just like, damn, this is gonna be cool, you know. And then it was like we all left, and we're all just like, you know, like giggling, but like, oh, this is gonna be awesome, but I'm nervous about this. Oh no, you know. So we're you know, the day's calm and cool. You know, we're walking around acting like normal. Next thing you know, we have Cena comes, you know, and he's like telling us, like, hey, you know, this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen, blah blah blah. He was like, what do y'all each want to do to me, you know? And I just was like, I'll clothesline you, you know. I didn't know.
Right.
You know, so we're all just thinking about things to do, and Cena's like, okay, we're gonna go in this order, this is that, you know, and next thing you know, man, it was that time, and it was
Yeah, it was. Everyone has pretty much the same kind of story. Wade Barrett, and if you said Vince speaks to us, he says, "Okay, this is a huge opportunity for you guys. This is going to be big. We want you to attack John Cena at the end of the show and smash up everything. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to wear these armbands with a little N on there. Didn't give us a reason why we were wearing the N. Didn't even give us the name Nexus or anything like that. Said put these on. Wade, you go down. Everyone else join him. Smash up everything. I want you to rip up the ring apart. I want you to trash the table. I want you to punch the security guards, punch the referees, punch Jerry Lawler, beat up Justin Roberts. Look, we're going to replace...
Specifically Justin Roberts. Hit him?
Look, we're going to replace everything next week, so do as much damage as you can. There are 2 rules. 1, don't punch any member of the audience. I didn't feel like you need to tell us that, but number 2, don't touch the cameras. Now, the cameras in WWE, this is from Wade, the cameras in WWE, they're high-definition cameras. They're like worth over $100,000, so we can't touch them, and Vince isn't wasting that kind of money. We walked back, and the entire locker room stood there clapping like we just performed a miracle. I'm like, okay, this is strange. These people normally don't even want to shake our hands. What's going on here? Then I realized how big an impact this had. Vince is thrilled. Triple H is thrilled. The writers are thrilled. Then we saw a replay of what we'd done. They showed a close-up of the crowd's faces, and they genuinely looked terrified, like something they'd never seen before. Right back at a very similar thing. It was just like, we're told you just like, do whatever you want. Don't touch the fans. Don't break the cameras. Those are your only 2 rules. Do you remember there was going to be a Nexus documentary? They weren't like, it was during the pandemic. They wanted to do this.
Oh, yes.
A big, like, full-on documentary about the
10 years.
10 years of the Nexus, a big history of the Nexus. And they brought in Darren Young to do it. And he said one of the reasons why it got shelved is because Danielson went to AEW.
Because there was talk of doing a Nexus reunion match or comeback at one of the pandemic manias, I think.
Yeah. And he said, like, last May, the other thing that was kind of got the documentary a little bit in trouble is that Darren Young, who is Fred Rosser, refused to take off his New Japan jacket. He's like, look, I worked so hard to get this jacket. Yeah. So no, I'm not going to take it off. It's in an interview with Chris Van Vliet. He's like, "Are you going to ask me to take my jacket off?" Chris like, "No." It's like, "No, because you wouldn't."
Yeah.
I'm going to wear this jacket. I wear this jacket with pride.
Oh, credit to him.
And then, just a few days later, the big news comes out about this angle. Bryan Danielson became the most talked about wrestler in the industry this past weekend after being fired by Vince McMahon personally on the 11th of June. So it's 4 days later after this.
Not talent relations, not John Laurinaitis or Jim Ross giving you the call.
Vince McMahon personally fired Bryan Danielson.
Which is out of the ordinary.
Over the past week, the situation has been hugely discussed because of aspects where it seemed like it was a worked storyline. In the end, the story seems to make no logical sense either as a storyline or reality. Danielson was fired late Friday night Eastern Time by McMahon, and creative and all the major company executives were said to have no idea anything was even brewing. There were those who knew that there was some heat on the angle itself because they were feeling that they would promise sponsors a PG show and aspects of the angle violated that promise. But no one expected a scapegoat or a firing out of it. They just wanted to be more careful. However, they thought it was a great angle. As the weeks went on, ratings from NXT the next day were up, as the ratings for Raw were the next week. There was no appreciable difference in house show attendance. All the major company executives were informed immediately, and moments later, the WWE website released the news. The point being, if this is a work, Vince McMahon is keeping it a secret from virtually everyone and lying to the COO, vice presidents, people doing payroll, marketing, creative, and the people in control of the drug testing, etc. In addition, Danielson would be lying to his best friends, both in and out of the company. Danielson has been vague in his writing about the subject, but he may not have known what he could and couldn't say without getting unnecessary heat that could have hurt a possible return. While he had people in the company who were legitimately not his supporters, the general reaction is the wrestlers greatly respected his ability as a model employee. He got high marks for his interviews and his physical angles with Michael Cole and The Miz, which are more believable than 98% of the angles. Danielson is already taking independent bookings all over the world, with the caveat that during his 90-day non-compete, he cannot work television or pay-per-view. The belief is that he can be taped for the Dragon Gate USA show in Philadelphia, which is a pay-per-view, but only because the show doesn't air until after the 90 days. The only company he's outright banned from appearing for is TNA. Unsurprisingly. He will remain on the payroll until the 11th.
So he would have thrived under Hogan.
After that point, he's free to go to TNA. It is possible McMahon told Danielson to lie to everyone that in the biggest angle of his life he would. Sure, It's possible, but what would the purpose be? To add mistrust in a way that an already paranoid business and an angle that's as big as some of the fans is the big picture? It's not a big deal. At the WWE shows this past week, it's not like there had been any chance for Danielson or any kind of groundswell for the people mad that he's gone. It was huge on the internet. A petition to get his job back has 13,000 signatures. The other strange aspects, McMahon firing him, which is Laurinaitis' job, the lack of any advanced warning, creative didn't know before anyone else had to rewrite TV to explain him being gone, with Wade Barrett dropping a line that Danielson showed remorse, and because of that, you'll never see him in the company again. The flip side of trying to make sense out of this is that while WWE has never gone in the direction of trying to work their own wrestlers and the office people on angles, it is something that TNA and WCW did at the best of times. In most cases, there was no upside, but both companies continue to do so anyway. So yeah, and it says here, is said to have fired for choking ring announcer Justin Roberts with his tie. They were also unhappy that he spat on John Cena, as WWE performers are not supposed to spit, and that any kind of choking was banned as part of a residual effort of the Chris Benoit murder of himself and his son by choking and hanging. But it was the choking that got him fired. Rumours abound regarding where the pressure could have come from, but now even more than a week after the incident took place, there's no indication who even complained. Mattel has been ruled out. That was the one I always heard. It was Mattel were the one who put the pressure on to fire him.
So, well, I mean, I was always under the impression, I cannot wait to learn as we go through this, that he was a scapegoat, but it was sort of told to him, just lay low, we'll bring you back. And of course he does come back for SummerSlam.
Yeah, that was my reading of it as well. The last thing on it is that Meltzer...
Maybe that's why Vince delivered the news personally.
Yeah. Meltzer continues here. The feeling is the punishment simply didn't fit the crime. Still, almost everyone expects Danielson back with the company sooner rather than later. Shawn Michaels, Danielson's original trainer, who believed it to be legitimate, was said to be furious about it. I am in agreement with you. There's been a lot said about this, whether it was a work, whether it's a shoot. I think that someone, sponsor-wise, complained, we asked for a PG product, and you've given us a non-PG angle, particularly with this choking thing. And Vince said to Danielson, we need to show that we've taken action. So take independent bookings. Don't go to TNA. You can work these places, and we'll bring you back in 90 days. We'll bring you back for the SummerSlam, and we'll just and then that'll be the end of it. But it looks like we have taken action against this.
I wonder if because Daniel Bryan is not a Vince McMahon guy. Like, he doesn't fit that mold at all. And Vince McMahon doesn't feel like a Daniel Bryan guy either. Like, Vince doesn't fit what Daniel Bryan seems to hold dear and close. But maybe this experience kind of gave them a bond, which is why Bryan, got pushed way beyond what we ever thought WWE would push him as.
Yeah, and so he didn't want to leave the company. He got the thing that turned Danielson against WWE for a long period of time was when they refused to clear him. Because he was going through all this, he was doing so many interviews, being like, I've been cleared by all of these doctors to wrestle, but the WWE doctor won't allow it. And I think that's what soured their relationship until eventually that doctor did clear him and he was able to return to the ring. He did an interview with Talk Is Jericho where he said, I didn't really know what the confines of what PG really is, but here's Justin Roberts with no shirt on and a tie around his neck, so I pull back on the tie. Everyone's doing the big thing to John Cena and I kick him in the head, but right before I kicked him in the head, I spit in his face. And we got to the back and it's like, who choked Justin with that tie? No choking. Who spit on Cena's face? No spitting. I was talking to The Miz and he was like, don't worry about it, it'll all blow over. Friday, I get a call from Vince himself telling me that he had to let me go. It's funny. One of my responses was that I just wasn't that bothered.
Never change, Bryan Danielson.
He says, I'm sorry we have to do this. And I say not to feel bad for me because I'm going to make more money than I ever had just based on the independence.
Yes.
I knew that took him back a little bit.
Oh, brilliant.
That's such a Bryan Danielson been like, oh, I'll be fine.
Yeah. You
have no idea how much money is on the independents if you've got enough cash, eh?
I can definitely do a G1 now.
Yeah. And I'm going to get paid a lot of money to do it as well. It was a massive, massive story that came off the back. And it is like a week later after this angle, one of its major players has already been fired. And
which kind of, oh my God, is this real?
Yeah, I'm also like, when you come down to, if that's the case, why not Orton get fired? But it comes down to, a lot of oddness around this because Skip Sheffield gets injured in the SummerSlam. I think it's in the SummerSlam match.
And he was. We haven't really gotten into it, but he was sort of if Wade was the Triple H of this faction, Skip Sheffield, now Ryback, it's probably going to be the Batista.
Yeah. And so Ryback gets hurt. I think it's in the SummerSlam match. And Michael Tarver's fired shortly thereafter. And there's like a lot of things about like that it was really Michael Tarver, I think, rubs a few people the wrong way, so he gets fired. Season 2 of NXT finishes up, so they bring in Michael McGillicuddy and Husky Harris, and they join the Nexus.
It's the worst names. That is Bray Wyatt and Curtis Axel, by the way.
Yeah.
Bray Wyatt.
Husky Harris.
Husky Harris.
Although I remember Steve Austin on his podcast, when he saw him, he was like, he's the best wrestler.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, he's a future champion.
Yeah.
That guy is awesome. But yeah, there you go. That is the Nexus debut. What did you make of this episode of Raw?
Oh my God. So much worse than I remember it. And the angle was just as good as I remember it.
Yeah.
So it's just like, 2 hours, 20 minutes of awfulness, 10 to 15 minutes of wrestling gold.
Yeah.
Like all-time, it's an all-time wrestling angle. It is one of those angles that is up there that all other angles are compared to afterwards.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's also the overall storyline of missed opportunities.
Yeah. The next few episodes are going to be nothing but crushing disappointments for us, I think. And like I'm basically going to be reliving the crushing disappointment because I was so excited by this angle. I was so into the Nexus. I did want to have a Nexus t-shirt to wear for this series, but they're really expensive online. Like a lot of people who have them don't tend to sell them. And the only one that WWE Shop sells is the CM Punk version.
Oh, weird.
But like, yeah, it's like they're like gold dust. It's like £56, like, and you have to import it from the States, which costs you like another 56 quid. So unfortunately, I don't have a Nexus t-shirt to wear for this. But like, people got a lot of love for this angle, a lot of nostalgia for this angle, and rightly so. It is awesome. But man, our next few episodes, it's going to be quite rough for people who wanted to see this work. But yeah, if you head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk
right what now, a sell. That crushing disappointment that Luke just spoke about. Oh, you can get it right now.
Yeah. If you head on to patreon.com/WrestleTalk, you can get the next episode of this series, Money in the Bank 2010. It's not Nexus's, like, they're not involved in a match, but they are involved in the finish of, I think, the main events. And also, Miz wins the briefcase, which will obviously play later into the year. Next month's episode will be SummerSlam 2010, which is where all the wheels will fall off. Patreon's episode will be Night of Champions 2010. Then the next episode after that will be Hell in a Cell 2010, followed by on Patreon, Bragging Rights. And then the final episode that we will have is Survivor Series 2010, and the Patreon episode will be TLC 2010, which is when it's Cena and Barrett, and that's the end of the Cena-Barrett feud.
God.
And then that's pretty much the end of the Nexus, because then they get split up, they become the core, and we build to a match that never actually happens.
Well, yeah, go to patreon.com/WrestleTalk right now for that. And if you missed out our Rock John Cena series, click the video on screen now.